From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the Smoak Show. Presented by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with David Craig and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on a Monday, and another week closer to college football games being played. Some overseas early on, and we'll get to those eventually, and still not quite yet, but some teams a little bit further ahead of schedule with an extra week early with practices. More of that. Today we will focus on Iowa State with Jake Brand of Cyclone Fanatic. He'll join us later in the show at 4:45. Heather Dinich, who's all up in the middle of the college football playoff and what they do. Plus, she's written a book, by the way. That also is something she'll discuss with us. And on top of that, Ari Temkin at 4 from Big 12 Radio. Craig Smoak back from a little bit of a weekend. Is there anything more amazing than having a niece?
Yeah, I'm sure having a daughter is probably a bigger deal than having a niece, but having a niece is pretty special. Haven't experienced it up until this past year, and now I see what I was missing out on all those years watching other people with their nieces and nephews or whatever other branches stemming off their families. Yeah, it's a really special deal. A little bit of a weekend. May seem like it was a longer weekend because I wasn't here on Friday, but I assure you that was not an off day. That was a frustration day. If anything,
I'm counting you.
That does not count as a vacation day. I'll take it to court. That was just a day where I couldn't get here. So nevertheless, you don't care about that. The rest of the weekend was great, and it was just a lot of fun to see my niece. Yeah, most of the time these past couple of days.
There's a great video of Gracie Lynn, Jennifer and Daniel's daughter. She's trying to play peekaboo with Craig in his baseball cap that he's wearing. It's just adorable, and she is unbelievable, and it's a breath of fresh air and it's shining light in the family. All right, so today is the day, we mentioned this, the Associated Press Top 25 Preseason College Football Poll. A couple of weeks ago, it was the coaches poll. Today, it is the Associated Press poll, and let's get straight to it. There we are. With Ohio State, Oregon, Big Ten, then, of course, you have Georgia, Notre Dame, Texas, among others. We will look through this with a couple of nuggets that Brett McMurphy put out. There's Indiana, the defending champions, at number 6. There's an interesting note about defending champions not being in the preseason top 5. Tech 12, BYU 14, and then down the list, Penn State at 18 with Matt Campbell, and then Houston and Utah, BYU, Texas Tech, all are a part of the top 25 from the Big 12. Craig? I got a couple of notes for you, okay?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that it's out. I'll go off of whatever direction you want to go here, but I'll just say, first of all, that I'm glad that it's out. It's another sign, like you said, that we're closer to the season. I mean, here we are. We're less than 2 weeks away from an actual football game being played. We're, I believe, 12 days exactly from North Carolina and TCU being the first game on the docket coming up in Dublin, Ireland, and then there's a bunch of games, maybe not a bunch compared to a normal weekend, but there's a couple handfuls of games on that first Saturday here in 12 days' time. So, very much looking forward to seeing the Frogs and the Tar Heels, but USC will be in action that weekend. NC State, Virginia, Hawaii, Stanford, Memphis, UNLV, Florida State hosting New Mexico State. So, it's great to see this. It's a breath of fresh air, and it's actual football being talked about that's close. So, let's go in whatever direction you want to go.
Let's do this. The Big Ten and the SEC was 17 of the 25 SEC with Missouri, and somebody put down clockwork. Missouri at 25, the Big Ten with 8. Big 12 has 4, ACC with 3, but the ACC with one of those, of course, Miami, up in number 7 after playing for the national title a year ago. Notre Dame, and not a single group of 6 school that normally you'll see one in that 22 to 25 range. There are other teams who receive first place votes, but here are some nuggets, Craig, and I'll mention them. First of all, let's go to what Brett McMurphy said about the top 25. The top 25, the poll released today, these schools inside of the preseason top 25, all of them, not just 2 or 4, every one of these teams ranked in the top 25 preseason poll, every single one of them. That is a chunk finished the year at unranked.
I don't know what the record is for something along those lines. I'm not sure if there were many comparisons made to other years or if we just sort of noticed it more last year. But yeah, that's nearly, if not half. I'm just trying to count in my head here. Whether it's 4, 8, 12 of the 25 you said. Yep. So yeah, nearly half of the top 25. So it's a great fun thing to have out at the beginning of the year. It's partial TV promotion. It's also just fodder. But it does matter because it does set the table to some degree, at least this first month of the season. So, don't treat it like it's gospel. It is very, very fluid, but it's better to be in it to start off with than to not be in it, I feel like, to just have yourself positioned well. But, yeah, it doesn't guarantee anything necessarily, and it's just crazy how much some of these teams were overrated last year and what the storylines eventually became. So I'd expect – similar this year. Don't know if it'll be half the initial poll, but certainly there will be some teams that we're talking about that are not going to be in this thing at the end of it. And you look at this, and as you mentioned, there's no group of 6 team. Typically a Boise State, somebody along those lines would be in at minimum the back half. And I know they got some votes and they were close to being in the poll, but to not see anybody is pretty crazy. And you look at the top 10, just you could go deeper than that, top 12, top 15. And I'm fascinated to see who's not going to be in this poll because if you got 3 top 10 teams from a year ago, 8, 9 top 20 teams they're not in this thing from a year ago. So you look at who those teams would be.
It's very spread out. You have 3 in the top 10, as you mentioned, 6 or 7 in the top 15. You're right. Absolutely.
You look at who those teams would be here, and it's big brands, it's big names. So, don't know who those teams will be this time around, but it's a pretty star-studded top 25.
Boise State was the first team to get votes right outside the top 25. It'd be 28, and then Navy would be the next one in line, just behind Arizona and also TCU. Oklahoma State got others receiving votes. And I believe that is it outside of the Big 12 with the 4. Now, here are some nuggets. 0 teams. This was hard. I didn't even realize this because I looked at the images. I love the pictures. Not a single SEC team received a first-place vote. First time that has happened since 2015. Not like one. And that was like, man, that's kind of hard to believe. And a lot of it, of course, and we'll get to Alabama at 13 in a minute, but not one since 2015 has received a first-place vote.
I'm pretty shocked by that. I think
Me
if
too.
You had put a bet out there for most any college football fan and said, would you take this bet that at least one first-place vote out of the 60, 70 first-place votes there are, at least one of those will surely go to an SEC team, right? I mean, a lot of people seem to love Georgia. A lot of people love Texas. And there's some others that are of interest. Certainly, people very curious about an LSU or an Oklahoma, an A&M. But to not have a single first-place vote, yeah, I would definitely have lost that bet. I would have taken that and never even thought twice that would not be the case. So I cannot believe that Texas didn't get a single first-place vote with what they have in store, or Georgia for that matter especially. But, yeah, I wouldn't have been alarmed all that much if somebody had thrown an errant first-place vote to one of those other teams besides those two, like an A&M. But, not a single vote for Georgia or Texas. That is pretty shocking. And the breakdown, I mean, 40 first-place votes for Ohio State, and very comfortably in the lead as far as those vote tallies go. Oregon at number 2 with 14 first-place votes. And then no first-place votes for Georgia, but 6 for Notre Dame there at number 4. None for Texas, as we mentioned. 8 first-place votes for Indiana. So There is a pretty strong belief. That's more than Notre Dame got. There's a pretty – I mean, that this season, we've been saying it all off season and not saying it because like our job is to hype up college football or anything. Like we talk about it because we love it. And we talk bad about it when we think stuff is stupid. Like we're not going to sugarcoat everything. But as we get closer to the season, it's just natural for whatever it is you're doing, college football or the NBA or whatever, to hype up and be excited about what's upcoming. But one of the common themes of this offseason, and I feel like I've said it 1,000 times, is just the amount of teams involved that feel like they have a chance. And there's a lot that I know people pick apart about the game these days, but I mean, the fact that you've got 5 teams and you're going, well, how did 6 and 7 and 8 teams not get first place votes? I feel like you look at the SEC in particular, and sure, Georgia and Texas might be slight favorites, but I mean, there's like 8 to 10 teams that could very well be in the mix. Like, it's going to be incredible to see how this sorts itself out. But Indiana by itself is an amazing story, obviously coming off of the last couple years and especially last year. But I mean, to be top 10 and to still be receiving nearly double-digit first-place votes, like I'm fascinated to see how they run it back.
Well,
with Cignetti in year 3, and then Miami, the only other one with the single first-place vote. But that's pretty spread out.
It is, and it is surprising that someone, whether it would be Texas or somebody else, or Georgia, of course, not a first-place vote. Here's some notes. Let's get to some nuggets. There's no graphics for this, just straight up what I call McNuggets for Brett McMurphy. Indiana's number 6 preseason ranking in the AP poll is the highest ranking in school history. Last year, they started out number 20. They won the national title. Here's another thing, though. The last 4 defending champions in college football who started the year in the AP preseason poll ranked outside of the top 5, ended the season unranked. How he finds things like this is because he has no life. But that's an interesting nugget, because you sit there and go, okay, but these trends seem to like hold up, and we got more of them to get to.
I would be pretty surprised if Indiana didn't finish in the top 25 at the end of the year, but who the hell knows? I mean, really, who knows? That's what I keep going back to, is there's just such an air of mystery with this upcoming season. And granted, not a lot of people were predicting Indiana to win every game last year, including the fully unbeaten run all the way through the national championship. But sure, if you were to tell me that they win it again, I mean, I'd have my doubts about that, but I'm not going to put anything past Curt Cignetti. I would really be surprised, though, if they ended outside of the top 25. But who knows? Well, I mean, who the heck knows?
Yeah, because you don't know about some things that might happen. By the way, a comment from Josh Hoover to the Big Ten Network that we'll have in the headlines, the Smoke Stack headlines here today, too. Ohio State, of the past 22 AP top 25 preseason number 1 ranked teams, 20 of the 22 failed to win the national title. Alabama was the last team to do it, and that was 10 years ago, basically in 2017. So 22 of the 20 of the last 22 years, the preseason number 1 ranked team did not win the national title. That can happen. But, man, you would think there maybe be 6 or whatever. So, Craig, that puts Ohio State, when they have the game on the road in Austin early, right in the crosshairs.
Well, and that's one of the many games early on that are going to shake this up right out of the gates. So to what degree?
Or confirm it, right?
Well, yeah, could confirm it. And if it's a close game, maybe both of those teams, for example, stay pat. But we're going to get OU, Michigan. We're going to get BYU, Notre Dame, although that's a bit later in the season. But still, we're going to get some good matchups early on that will certainly change some things here, or verify that the voters were dead on with where they had people arranged. And for Ohio State, that's a challenge that I would want to take on. I mean, it hasn't happened very often, but it has happened a couple times. That's more than 0, and I don't think that's a program that lacks in confidence or would want it any other way. You would rather be number 1 and felt like people believe you're the best team and want to go out and prove that than any other spot, certainly. So, challenge is on, game on, and we'll see if the Buckeyes can become that 3rd team.
First time in 18 years that Alabama is ranked outside the top 10 in the AP preseason poll. Number 13 this year, the lowest since 2008, when they started the year number 24. Here's another note. A team that has won national titles recently. Clemson is unranked in the preseason AP Top 25 poll for the first time since 2011. And Dabo Swinney's third year, full year, as head coach of the Tigers.
I'm sure it's different in Clemson, South Carolina, and hearing that and reading that or realizing that, although it's not much of a surprise given how the last couple of seasons have gone. And I do think it's the demise of Clemson is a little bit overplayed. I think when you're starting off at such a high point that the fall seems very dramatic, but there is reason for concern that the fall is going to continue. And certainly this is a sign that at least the opinions of the program itself, and normally you'd have them easily a top 5 team pretty much year to year. That's just no longer the case. And not being in the poll at all means it's not even close to being the case any longer. So, that's just more confirmation of just the way Clemson football for the country has kind of faded into not necessarily the full-on background, but certainly has faded from its place in that top tier of the sport. And likewise with Alabama. And I know Clemson is going to be very interesting this year. We're just, we don't talk about them the way we talked about them 5 years ago, and that's okay, but they're still very interesting. And either Dabo's going to slip further and we're going to hear more and more about how he didn't play the cards right these last few years, which has already been we've seen evidence of that he's talked about at length. He's defended also at times as well. But I still expect a good season. It's just not to the level of what the standard was there pre-NIL days. And then with Alabama, that's, I think, maybe the most unique note of this entire top 25. And there's various ones, but for Alabama to not be in the top 10 and for you to recognize how long it's been since that was the case, that is pretty interesting. And another team that feels like they've got a big chip on their shoulder. And this time it's justified. This isn't Georgia being ranked number 2 and Kirby Smart. Oh, they all think we suck, kind of BS motivation. This is like, no, they don't even think you're a top 10 team anymore. Like Kalen DeBoer has plenty to play with that program in terms of motivation. I think they're going to be pretty good. I'm very curious about Bama this year and how the quarterback situation shakes out and whether they can have a run game that works to the ways of the old Alabama successes, or if it's more of a problematic thing once again for them. So, just another very interesting team in this land full of mystery that is this upcoming season. And what a record. To have it broken sucks, but pretty amazing stretch for them. And as a non-Alabama fan, I love that stat more than anything because it just reaffirms what I've been saying. I think I had this conversation maybe with my brother-in-law over the weekend, or maybe I'm remembering a conversation from last week. I don't know. But I was saying to somebody that I just find it to be really interesting that Alabama is not like this team that sort of commandeers everything and is just automatically put at the top of everything because of what they earned and what they deserved under Saban for so long. But to just have them plucked out of this, they're going to be in the top 3, they're going to be in the playoff every year. Like, just to have this, maybe not about Alabama, I think makes everybody else around them also that much more interesting.
Right.
So it's just, it's a cool wild card that we didn't have for about 20 years that now is a really fun wild card.
It was something that you were just like, where is Alabama? And there's been other phases during the last 50, 60 years where you kind of have that with other teams. Here's one. At least one team that started the season unranked. So we've told you about the teams that were ranked or inside the top 10. At least one team that started the season unranked finished not only in the AP Top 25 poll, but finished inside the AP Top 10. 29 of the 32 years. 29 of the last 32 years, somebody not ranked, someone's image that's not up there, the chances and the odds and the trends is that somebody not in that 25 will end up inside the top 10. 29 of 32 times that the poll has been out.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 29 out of 33. Although the numbers say that there's likely to be somebody that jumps in there. The reason why I say that is because I'm looking at the teams that aren't in the top 25 that would have the chance to be a part of this. So that would mean just going off of the others receiving votes. So Clemson would be the biggest contender for that. We just talked about them and how I still expect them to be pretty good. It's just not the automatic that it was same to Alabama. So Clemson, 100+ votes, double the next team in line just outside the top 25. So that would seem like a pretty strong contender to maybe be in that mix of finishing in the top 10 if things fall right. And then after them, Florida. Gosh, if John Summerall gets them into the top 10 in year one at the end of the year, then my God, you clearly made a great hire. Boise State, I don't think that they'll finish probably top 10 in the country when all is said and done. Arizona, TCU, South Carolina, just amongst some of the others, Oklahoma State. So, yeah, just a gaggle of teams that could do that, but I don't see anybody that feels like a real surefire thing that I'd feel really comfortable betting on. If I had to place a bet, maybe Clemson, because I feel like that's manageable. But, we'll see if that is 29 out of 33 or if that's 20 or 30 out of 33 when the season ends.
Notre Dame, ranked number 4, ranked in the preseason top 5. For only the 4th time in 34 years. Their last national championship was 1988. Lou Holtz, Tony Rice, the quarterback. Other seasons, though, did not end very well. When they were ranked inside the top 25, in 2022, they were number 5. They finished 18th. In 2006, they were number 2. They finished 17th. And in 94, they were number 2 and finished unranked. USC is ranked number 14, Craig, which might not be a good omen for them. And for the last 6 years that they've been, when they began the season ranked, they finished the season unranked. And they used to be one of those teams that was, you knew they were going to be ranked and you knew they were going to pretty much end up somewhere in the run for either a high bowl game, Rose Bowl, national championship, or something else. But it's been a long time since Bush, Leinart and company, and Pete Carroll.
Oh, God. I mean, there's been people who've had kids. Those kids have grown up, graduated college, gotten married, had babies in the time since then. Now, maybe they'd be very young babies because we're talking like 21-year-olds. So maybe some people got started a bit early, but you could have accomplished that in the time since, USC was at its most relevant point that you're referring to, at least with those glory years. I've seen their schedule, and now you have the ability to put the numbers next to the names, and you see USC with a very interesting stretch starting on September the 26th, where 5 of the next 6 games are against top 20 teams. Mm-hmm. So if USC were to do that, that means they had a pretty fun season and they won some big games along the way to do so, because you're looking at September 26th after what should probably be a 4-0 start. Number 2 Oregon, number 17 Washington, at number 18 Penn State, then you have at Wisconsin, but then number 1 Ohio State, at number 6 Indiana. So from September 26th through November the 14th, 6 games. 5 of those, as it stands right now, are top 20 games, and 3 of those overall games are on the road. The one unranked game and one of those road games being Wisconsin, which who the heck knows, that might be quite the challenge. Maybe Luke Fickell's got the gang rolling, maybe, but regardless of that stretch still very, very daunting for USC. So they'll have to go out and prove it, and certainly some of these rankings probably won't be quite what we think they are right now. As you've pointed out, maybe Washington isn't really a top 25 team by the time they roll around to playing them, or maybe Penn State and Matt Campbell need some more time to marinate. But we know Oregon's going to be good. We know Ohio State's going to be good. We know Indiana's going to be good, and they play all 3 of those teams in the span of 6 weeks. So, USC has a chance to make a big splash or to have a little bit of troubles knock them pretty clear out of that poll.
Indiana is trying to win back-to-back titles. In the last 30-plus years, there have been 2 repeat national champions. Georgia, 21 and 22, and then also Alabama, a decade prior to that in 2011 and in 2012. Then you have to go all the way back to USC in 03-04, and then the mid-90s with Nebraska. So it doesn't happen a lot. The odds in history can be against you. Now, this is an image. This is from like a week ago. It's Reggie Hogged Up on Twitter. Every preseason top 25. This is kind of to have fun with it. If you'll put that up, Rez, there we go. This is the annual. This is how you put together the top 25. Team that made the college football playoff and returns their starting quarterback is 1. 2 through 5, you have Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Texas in no particular order. 6, the defending national champions. This was before Today, Indiana being ranked 6th. Then you have Notre Dame. You just slot them in. LSU. 9 and 10 teams picked to win the ACC and the Big 12 just to make sure they're ranked in the top 10. Then you go down to 11 through 15, assortment of random Big 10 and SEC. Number 16, Penn State, even though they went 6 and 6, and on. And then you throw in a group of 6, the American at 18, although that didn't happen. 21, BYU. Louisville, they're like 23 or 24, a random Mountain West school, and then Iowa at 25. This guy put that out there last week. I wanted to see how it went, and some of it did work. And that's kind of a formula for what you see with the top 25.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty spot on. And I'll go over a second how close that actually was in some cases and where missed the mark. But the part where you missed the mark is the part that I don't know if it's going to be the standard every year. So you change what might be the new standard, and then you're really, really close to being spot on for how these are going to play out moving forward, because we know that the number one's pretty much always the case every year. 2 through 5's basically been the case what seems like every year or some combination thereof. And you know what? He's right on both of those again. Mm-hmm. Number 6, defending national champions. It is Indiana at number 6. He's absolutely right. And I'll get to some of those other ones here, but the part that I think he's missing out on, and it'll be interesting to see if he adjusts it next year or she adjusts it next year, and then this becomes the case here on after, rather than there being random Mountain West school at the back end or Boise State specifically, typically in these polls. There is no group of 5, 6, whatever you refer to it as. I mean, there is no version of that in this entire top 25 poll. And I don't know if that's the new way things will be moving forward. You've got the new pack and a lot of excitement about that, but is the actual football on the field going to be impressive enough to where we keep putting Boise State in 20 through 25 in the preseason every year? This year, no. So, yeah, I think that those schools have quite the uphill battle perception-wise. And the more the gap grows, or at least the feeling is that the gap continues to grow, I think the harder it is going to be to scratch and claw. You're going to have very little room for error if you're those teams. But, yeah, I don't even know if that's the case these days. We'll have to see next year if Boise State or San Diego State or somebody like that pops in there. But as far as the rest of the points, I mean, number one's right. Yeah, a team that made the CFP has their starting quarterback, Julian Sayin in Ohio State. 2 through 5, well, Ohio State wasn't on there, but Georgia is, and Texas is. Ohio State's just not there because they're at number 1. Alabama, though, you got to change that. That's no longer the case where they're just automatically top 5. Defending champs, number 6. Yep, it's Indiana. Number 7, Notre Dame. Close enough. They were number 4. LSU at 8. They're at 11, so not far off there. 9 and 10 teams picked to win the ACC Big 12. Not quite, but he was not quite on 9, 10, or 11 because those are all SEC schools. But guess who's at number 12?
Yep.
Texas Tech, team to pick to win the Big 12. So close enough. 11 through 15, random assortment of Big 10 and SEC, LSU, Alabama, USC. But BYU and Tech are in there. USC at number 17, actually at 14. But I mean, he's close enough. Like these are all very close, and they continue to be coached. How about number 20, Big 12 team who hired a sexy new coach? Number 20 is actually Tennessee, but Utah is one spot behind, and they just promoted Morgan Scalley. So I wouldn't have been surprised if that was like an Oklahoma State spot either. BYU at 21, they're actually much higher. They're at 14. 22 Big 10 team that went 5 and 7 last year. Not 5 and 7, but Iowa, close enough. 23 Louisville, they're at 24. So, I mean, yeah, there's no random Mountain West school, but Iowa's at 22, not 25. So if you were like closest to the hole, I mean, he's pretty much.
No, that's why.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
If he would have just butchered this and been not even close, I probably would not have put it up. But yeah, no, it's almost like that's how you fill out a top 25.
It's almost like that's kind of scary that it's that accurate, because that is pretty much what it is every year. And I don't know if that's a correction that needs to be made, that it's too obvious, or if that's just obvious because it's obvious that that's pretty much the lay of the land as far as the teams rank, at least for the start of the season.
It's incredible. To me, incredible. There's a few other nuggets I will get to a little bit later with Brett McMurphy. But let's get to Josh Hoover. quarterback now, of course, at defending national champion Indiana. He met and was on the Big Ten Network. They're doing their Big Ten tour. This is not a part of media days. This is them traveling to various schools, all 18 of them. Here is Josh Hoover on his time with Kirk Cignetti and Indiana football.
Chance to spend some time with them. What stands out? What makes this staff and this program different?
I think obviously it always starts at the top. Starts with the leadership at the school, and then obviously Coach Cignetti. When you walk into this place for the first time, it's pretty overwhelming, just the way that things are run around here and the respect that our entire staff and all of our players have for our head coach. It's very, very cool, and it's awesome. It's something that I saw for the first time really being here, just how a program actually is committed to a process and committed to an idea, and just the culture of the way the players interact, the way the players hold each other accountable. That's what makes this place special, and just the brotherhood. It's truly a place where it's not cliquey at all. It's guys love each other. They love being around each other. They love working together. I love the guys on defense. They love us. We go at it every day. Our defense is really good. They made me a lot better, and so this place is just full of great coaches who hold guys to the highest standard. I've never been held to a standard as high as I am here, and it was uncomfortable at first, and its growth is always uncomfortable, but that's the only way to grow, is to be uncomfortable, and it's been a great experience, and I'm just looking forward to continue to work every single day with these guys.
I have never been held to a standard as high as I am here. I don't think he's trying to take a shot at anybody where he has been before, which is TCU. Tino Sinceri, by the way, to Josh Hoover in that interview, you've got to kill the old self to become the new self. This is the highest standard, again, as Hoover said, and I have been held to, and I love it. And so there's an interesting audio clip from Josh Hoover on Big Ten Network.
I mean, if there's somebody out there, and I guess there probably isn't like the Baylor fandom or maybe the Tech fandom or something that wants to troll TCU or gets kicks trolling TCU, has TCU buddies they like to mess with, and I guess you could probably squeeze something out of there to try and perceive that as him taking a shot. But I think it was just more complimentary about Indiana than anything, and it's more of what you've heard from pretty much everybody who's been in that program the last couple of years. Cignetti runs a tight ship, and it gets results. So no surprise to hear that that's the case up there. And I'm sure for Josh Hoover, it was a little bit of an adjustment. I don't think Sonny Dykes runs some loose ship where everybody's just running around doing whatever they want to either. But it does seem like Cignetti's probably got a bit more of an iron grip kind of on the way things are. Dykes strikes me as a guy who's definitely got control, but maybe isn't. I don't know. I don't even want to compare him like there's a negative to be had here, because I think it's just mostly complimentary about where he is now, and it's not so much about where he was. So I think TCU will go out and have a great season. Josh Hoover was a really, really good player for them, and I think he's going to be excellent for Indiana, and that's one of, again, the million preseason storylines that I am just so anxiously awaiting to see and to see what it actually looks like in reality. Is Josh Hoover as Indiana starting quarterback in that Kurt Cignetti system. It's going to be a lot of fun, and he's got big shoes to fill. Obviously, the biggest shoes you could possibly have: national championship, undefeated season, Heisman Trophy winner, #1 overall draft pick. But he doesn't have to do all those things for Indiana to win a national championship or to be really good once again. And I'm just looking forward to what this all looks like.
There's a note, we're talking about the top 10 so far impact transfers in college football. One of them was Arizona, the Wildcats, with Malcolm Hartzog. He is not a big body. He's a former defensive back at Nebraska. He has become one of the leaders of the Arizona defense and secondary, redshirted last year after getting hurt early, and a source telling On3 that he's going to be a stud. He's played 38 career games, and the Wildcats confident he's upgraded their secondary. Remember, they were good last year. Hartzog, I believe, is the one who intercepted Brendan Sorsby to seal the win for Nebraska in that game against Cincinnati. Made a really nice play going back on that. Then he got hurt, and then he was out for the rest of the year. He's one of those very cerebral type players, not big at all, but is very, very good about understanding football IQ.
Yeah, that's great for Arizona if that's the case. I mean, that's their big question mark, is that secondary. It's a unit that was really impressive a year ago. multiple NFL guys, multiple all conference type of players, and just a really good unit that was picked apart by eligibility over the offseason. So I think you do have some big shoes to fill, but if Malcolm Hartzog's jumping into the deep end and getting work done and is an upgrade or just as good as they were last year, and that's a great sign, because that is what I question the most about Arizona this upcoming year is that secondary. I think they're going to be pretty good. I think they're 8-9 win ballpark, and possibility they could exceed that. I'm not ready to go there, but I do think they're going to be a bowl team once again. I think they'll be in the mix for at least a portion of the season as far as the Big 12 contenders go. And I do believe you're right that he was the one that picked off Sorsby in that Cincinnati-Nebraska game at the very end. And obviously the conversation this offseason led to people going back and watching that game quite a bit. But that was a pretty fun ending, unless you were a Cincinnati fan or whoever probably had money on Cincinnati and all of that. But good for Arizona.
All right, so there we are with that one. Also, a quick note, BYU and Oregon State, they're going to play next year, but the game has been moved to a different date. They've moved the game to August 28th. It is in Provo as part of the new standardized 14-week regular season schedule and calendar format. There was also a note attached to this that this also could set up BYU Notre Dame playing on what will be, I guess, the weekend of September the 11th. In 2027, if that's possible. But this game's been moved up from where it was, BYU, Oregon State, and then the possibility BYU, Notre Dame moving to the weekend of September the 11th. So there's a scheduling note there. Let's do some uniform, Craig. A couple of different nuggets. Arizona State, 40 years ago, the Rose Bowl, they wore these uniforms, and these are the uniforms they're going to wear at some point this year. And the reaction to these uniforms was pretty much overwhelmingly positive. I love that look. I love the color scheme as Arizona State unveiled those. And I don't know if they're going to wear them at home or going to wear them whatever, but those uniforms are coming back into play for the Sun Devils.
I like them, and don't take what I'm going to say as criticism at all. It's just my stream of consciousness. That's a pretty plain text, like for your typical uniforms these days. It feels like a very standard text that you would have writing your paper on your laptop or something like that. So that jumps out to me as kind of being sort of plain, but it looks good. It gets all the letters on there and easily readable and all of that. I like the stripes on the shoulders. Those have become quite commonplace in a lot of different uniforms over the last few years, some version of those shoulder stripes. I know there was a template that Nike had these past couple of years. Baylor was one of the schools wearing that template that brought those back or I guess made them more prominent with more schools here recently. So I like the shoulder stripe look on most of these uniforms. I do like them here. I think they pop nice. And beyond that, I can't tell too much from go to the wide shot again so I can actually see the full uniform. Yeah, the gold and gold helmet and gold pants, that pops nicely. You can't always yellow/gold's always a really hard color to always make work in certain combinations, but it definitely works here. The kind of maroon, darker red shades do go well with the yellow gold. So, I like these. They definitely look throwback. The keys about throwbacks, a lot of uniforms that maybe didn't look that cool when you're watching them when they were actually being used back in 1986. Maybe they don't look as cool, but old uniforms look 9 times out of 10 way better than you last saw them when you see them again in this day and age, because just the fits make everything look so much better, and the materials and things like that. Like the old Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniforms were god awful, but then you see them with the jerseys are actually tight, and the helmets are cooler looking helmets, and it's that actually looks pretty cool. Probably partly because we haven't seen it in a while, but I like the throwback look. I think that'll be great for what game do you say that's going to be?
That's I did not see if it was a specific game or just they're going to wear them with it being 40 years since.
Why the hell not? That'll be good.
All right. Now, Nebraska plays on Halloween. I don't know if it's night or weekend, but they're playing Washington. Here are the alternate uniforms that they're going to wear in what will be a blackout look. However, it's not even really the blackout look. I don't know if they have ever had a helmet with the script Huskers, which I love that script, no matter the color, instead of, which has always been the block N. So this would be a first with the Huskers, which I've always kind of liked that script on their helmet.
Yeah, I don't like the plain traditional N with the black. I didn't think that was the best look. This right here, I like better. I think a white outline around Huskers would probably make it pop a little bit more. I'm no graphic designer, though, so I'll leave it to the professionals. I just feel like that'd probably go an extra mile, but I do like them. I think they look good. I am somebody who, had Nebraska never tinkered with their uniforms at all, would have been totally content with them staying as is. They're just one of those programs who I feel like never really needed to do that, but I understand things have changed in the last 20 years, and we've seen them break out multiple alternates. So now that you've kicked down the door, might as well keep going to the well and seeing what might be the next big thing, or what sells a bunch of merchandise, or just what gets your players hyped up. So it's a nice little tweak. And yeah, I like those for the most part.
By the way, that Arizona State uniform, and Mike Bean just saw, there is no monster patch. That was not, there's a Big 12 logo, which that looks really clean, but I don't see that specific picture or image Adidas with the Big 12 monster patch.
I assume, and I'll be proven wrong, I guess, if it changes, but I assume they just haven't put it on there yet.
Yeah, no, yeah,
that's a good call out. That there will be a monster patch somewhere on that jersey, and I would just think that maybe they haven't put those together just yet, or if they don't have it on there, then that will be a story unto itself when the time comes. But good eye, and something we will definitely be paying attention to now moving forward with these Big 12 schools is seeing the unveiling of these monster patches on all these jerseys. But going back to Nebraska, I mean, what do you think? You're a Nebraska fan, so
I have always, and I don't know when they started using like Huskers or like even as part of a logo or whatever.
It
was the mid 90s when they could do it, and it looked good. It looked hip. It was updated. The block in is historical. Their uniforms, the red, whatever color you want to call it, and white I think they're beautiful. But that right there, the Huskers script is not a bad change up if it's for one game or not. They have had some what I think are also some just blackout
they had some
type
ugly
uniforms.
alternate uniforms, and it's not just because it's Nebraska breaking the mold, but just some of them have I didn't like the black helmets with just the basic N logo. Like I said a few moments ago, I didn't think those really looked all that great. This little bit better, still not a 10 out of 10, but I do like them using that word logo, and that's something we saw pretty trendy last year. A lot of teams using the script kind of cursive logos. So this is their version of that in Lincoln, as best as they come close to that type of thing. So see how they look.
All right, Rez, I want to use a couple of the pictures that were sent by viewers to us over the weekend. You can go with either one if you want. There were two viewers, one S. Michael DeHart and also your pet cat again, who sent me pictures of, one of them was from, let's see which one he puts up. You know who that is? I believe, now, your pet cat again, I thought this was John Sumrall that you sent me this picture of. And I don't even, maybe you were there or at an event or somebody is a friend of yours, but you just put in the chat room, it's Brent Key. So I'm now confused, but I wanted to put that up there because he sent that to me over the weekend. The other one is from S. Michael DeHart. He goes, hey guys, between Cousins, mugs, koozies, and my Black Rifle Coffee Club jugs and thermos, my dark roast, and that good old West Virginia moonshine, going to stay hot when needed and cold till the rest of time, from Justin. He got that from Justin, and that's our friend S. Michael DeHart, the West Virginia fan. So there we are with a couple of images.
Yeah, I think that was Brent Key in that first image. That's cool, whatever event that was. And shout out to Justin Coos Walker, who does a great job covering the Mountaineers, and glad you picked up some of his merchandise, and looking forward to seeing how big of a year this is for the West Virginia faithful. No, it's been long, trying times in some ways, but a lot of optimism about this year. Also, a lot of reason to believe that maybe there's too much optimism. I mean, I've seen some thoughts that, hey, 7-8 wins. I mean, maybe that's too far of a jump. Maybe not. That'll be another one of the, again, million stories that we eventually find out here. But there is a little bit of a drum beating in Morgantown, and it's good to see because it has felt just kind of quiet over in that part of the Big 12 country for a couple years. And if Rich Rod has his ducks in a row, then that's going to definitely be a team that can shake things up and be a bit of that wild card that makes things more unpredictable that you weren't banking on in the preseason.
Yeah, I agree. And it'd be nice to see a couple of teams in the Big 12 jump up and do something. It happens annually, somebody that's better than we thought. That doesn't happen just in the Big 12, but the Big 12 seems to have somebody that's like simmering. Okay, there you are. And then next thing you know, Arizona last year with their 9 wins. Houston, everyone thought they'd be better, but 10? And that was awesome for Willie Fritz and also company. Let's break here, Rez. Michelangelo Flores and Garrett Ross running the mothership. Ari Temkin at 4, Heather Dinich 425 and 445. Jake Brent will join us on the Iowa State Hawkeyes. Oh, my God, that's like a terrible thing for me. That's like saying the Iowa Cyclones on Iowa State football. Jake Brennan, he'll join us in about an hour. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. The summer sales event continues. Right now, 2020 Mercedes-Benz C300 for just under $25,000, $24,725. Right now, they have a tremendous supply of pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and much more. How about the Subaru Legacy Sport 2025? Sport with 13,000 miles, only $29,995. Also, Alan Samuels, the slogan, come by, let's be friends. They want you to drop in. Yes, they want you to test drive. And if you have the ability and you're ready to pull the trigger, they, of course, have the finance department to help you with that, too. The America 250 Edition 2026 Jeep Wrangler or the 2026 Ram 1500 with exclusive patriotic styling and commemorative details on those vehicles. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Ted Teague, General Manager, CEO David Gray with the sales department ready there for you. Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco.
Broker is your Lennox Premier dealer. Right now, qualified buyers can make no payments and get no interest financing for 12 months on a new Lennox home comfort system. Conditions apply. Call Ray Broker Air Conditioning and Heating Specialists for details and a free estimate.
Make this the summer event at Alan Samuels in Waco. Get summer ready in a new Jeep Wrangler Sport. Your choice, 0% for 36 months or just $33,848. Want more truck and more fun? Check out the 2026 Jeep Gladiator Mojave. Your choice, 0% for 36 months or save $10,000. Take the top off and hit the road. Alan Samuels Jeep.
Come by, let's be friends.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Craig.
All right, we're back. 365 Sports, the Smoak Show. And it has been a really brutal stretch for Texas high school football. I know we cover college football, but a lot of the players, of course, some of them come from the state of Texas. A lot of them do. But over the weekend, I saw this story. East Bernard high school football coach, AD and football coach, Jeremy Jenkins and his wife, Brandy. They have three boys. They were killed in a collision over the weekend. Of course, East Bernard, a tremendous history in high school football. This, of course, has stunned everybody, but also the city of East Bernard, the town of East Bernard. Jeremy Jenkins was one of those coaches that would go to a school and wouldn't be there very long, but he would take a school and not always start well and end up really good. Give me a couple of examples. And by the way, his brother Greg is a longtime friend and a football coach in East Texas. He took a team, was it Harmony High School? They finished 9-6. Now, if you do the math, one of the losses, it's in the semifinals, would be one of the 6 losses. But the other 5, that means they were 5-5 at the end of the regular season at Harmony and got hot, red hot. And I remember that team. I remember talking to him a few times. He did that at a couple of other places. Last year at East Bernard, they lost a game to start the year to Tidehaven, and I can't remember the score, but it was bad, like 51-6 or whatever. And that was the last game of the regular season to end the district. And it was 3 or 4 weeks later in the playoffs, quarterfinals, they beat Tidehaven 34-31. That's what he would do. He would take a team early that was never going to be what they were later as they got a lot better. This was a week after the tragic story at Lake Travis High School, which is the school with Baker Mayfield and Garrett Gilbert and names like, for example, Charlie Brewer, who played there. They won 4 consecutive state titles quite a long time ago, back at the end of the 2000s, early 2010s. Odin Hensley passed out, collapsed at a practice a week ago and passed away. So it's been quite the stretch. And then this one here, Army helicopter pilot and also another pilot, DeAndre Huey. They were killed in an Apache helicopter accident at Fort Hood. This was just early, right over the weekend. And DeAndre Huey, he played football at Killeen High School. And so 3 stories that, along with Seth Olmstead, who also passed away. He was 25. Huey was 34. And just tragic start to what is the lead up to the 2026 high school football season. I wanted to mention those families and also our thoughts and prayers to the towns of Killeen, the towns as well of what, of course, is East Bernard, and even what happened a little over a week ago at Lake Travis. Lake Travis canceled their scrimmage that was going to be this week. It's the last week you can prep for the start of the season, and they canceled it, obviously, services and more going on for Hensley at some point this week. So just horrible news.
Yeah, I don't know really what to say about all that other than it's very sad and it's tragic. And so I guess the only thing is when it comes to Jeremy Jenkins, I just remember typing his name in a lot for forms and stuff over the years. No connection to him, but just remember typing in Jeremy Jenkins a couple times a year for website purposes. And I guess in reading about it, just feel like you get hit over the head with a hammer when you realize there's 3 boys who now lost both their parents in a car wreck. So just like that, their lives just completely altered in a way that it'll never be close to the same again. So definitely sending them from afar the most positive vibes and best wishes and just comfort from whatever corner of the galaxy or whatever thing it is that you believe in. I definitely send those positives, wishes and thoughts to those boys, because that's got to be really, really tough. But the good news is they got each other. I mean, that's the saving grace, I guess, is they do have each other. I know they're older, like they were playing high school ball or like are that college age.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're pretty farther along in life, but you can't even imagine the unimaginable shock and pain that comes with something like that. So for all those involved, yeah, definitely wishing everybody the best and wishing them healing and hope for the future.
Tyson, Gage, and Jake Jenkins lost their parents in that car collision and over the weekend. Greg Jenkins, I mentioned he's a friend. I just sent him a note. He said, I'm broken. I can imagine. You obviously would be in that situation, and wishing him the best of luck too. When we come back, we're going to have Ari Temkin. Let's do the Sam Houston football note on the jersey patch, Rez, if you don't mind. So Sam Houston, and I didn't know this until last week when I was talking to Ben Ricard as the SID at Sam Houston. It is always, ever since I was old enough to realize there's a Sam Houston State University in Huntsville, it's no longer, they do not refer to themselves any longer as Sam Houston State. Look at the jersey there. They signed a jersey patch deal, Craig, with Snapback Sports. Part of the deal is a media company will travel with the school to produce at least 50 pieces of social content on its behalf. That's a little bit unique.
Yeah, I mean, the state's been dropped for quite a while now, right? The Sam Houston State. It's been several years since they've been going by Sam Houston State. So for those who've still been calling them that, that's pretty outdated at this point. You don't really
but
have
if you're an SFA guy, you don't
sure, you fall back into old habits, but you don't really have the it's only been a couple years, I'm still getting adjusted. It's like, no, you're just kind of out of date at this point. But regardless,
I think it was 2019. So it's been a while.
I mean, I feel like there's like a 5 years, halo period there. But so yeah, it's just Sam Houston. But I know that's a very successful channel. They were at Big 12 Media Days a couple of years ago. I think they're pretty well funded from what I could tell, or maybe it's just the success they've had with their channels. But either way, seem like they've got some pretty good backing and a good feel for the pulse of video making and things becoming hits and all that. I know they were they had a whole setup a couple of years ago, and I believe it was Arlington, if not Vegas, when the Big 12 was there. But regardless, that's when I first came across that page and those guys. And yeah, they seem to do really well for themselves. And I know they're younger and kind of have the pulse, like I said. So yeah, it certainly doesn't hurt Sam to have a partnership like that. Not sure what it'll do for them in the long run, but hey, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So maybe this allows them to go viral a couple times this season and leads to a couple thousand kids wanting to go to Sam that might not ever have considered it otherwise, or just puts a nice spotlight on the program. And yeah, that's an interesting partnership.
When we come back, Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn. And I mentioned Heather Dinnish on a book that she's written, plus the fact she's tied in a lot with college football as an analyst for ESPN and also a writer. This is The Smoak Show on 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. How can he help you? Contact him at Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Tell him I sent you. As you get into your upper 30s and your 40s, 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. And what can that mean? Your energy is not good. Your energy just doesn't seem to be the way it was. You feel like you're lagging. Even early in the day, before you even get to lunch, you're like, man, there's just something missing. And then also you might gain a little belly fat and you feel like you're still in the same shape you were before. Or you work out. Or you're fit. And the other one is your sex drive is not the same. Your performance is not there, which can be embarrassing. And so Dr. Kent Petty can help you out. Contact him and tell him I sent you. He then will get you into an appointment to have your blood done, your blood work done. He'll get the results, look at the overall scores of your T level. And if it's too low, and he's got kind of a little like sliding scale, matrix, whatever you want to call it, analytics, whatever that number is, if it's too low, he can put you in a program to increase it so you can become the high performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
In the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Celebrate American value and American quality during the Red, White, and Blue sales event at Richer Car. You want a Richer Car GMC? Get your Sierra now and save $13,000 or more on every truck in stock with trade-in. Save $14,000 on a 2026 GMC Sierra SLE Crew Cab. Or save $13,500 on a 2026 GMC Sierra Pro, now under $29,000. Drive American quality and get American savings during the Red, White, and Blue sales event at Richer Car.
Richard Car, they have the truck for you.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Smoak.
We're now joined by Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn. Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. We appreciate your time today on 365 Sports. Ari joins us. And Ari, thanks for your time. We appreciate it as we get closer to the start of the regular season. And looking forward to that. Anything today from the AP Top 25 poll that you, when you looked at it, you're like, oh, no, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right?
Well, I mean, I think we can always, as fans of the Big 12 Conference, nitpick. Because it is the AP, and it feels like the AP Top 25 is constantly at odds with the perception and expectations we have for this conference. But no, look, I think the Big 12 is well situated. I think from a preseason standpoint, you're not going to find too much disagreement in terms of who should be in there and the 4 teams that should be in there. And now I think it's up to the Big 12 to hold serve. You know, they've got to win some games early season. There's a huge matchup for BYU and Arizona in a conference game week 2. Texas Tech and Houston have a huge matchup week 3 to start conference play. So, you know, the Big 12 teams that are in the top 4, I mean, Utah has to beat Arkansas. they've got to take care of business. They can't disappoint, and they've got to continue to move up, because this comes down to a preseason expectations versus a surprise team type thing. And we've seen in recent history in the Big 12 surprise teams sort of come out of nowhere. They were unranked in the AP top 25, not even considered, and they end up spoiling the party. I think from a perception as reality standpoint, the Big 12 needs its teams at the top of the conference that are expected to be there to stay there and to be there in order to kind of buoy the rest of the conference.
Ari, it's a preseason poll. It does have some level of meaning as far as the marketing and just kind of positioning the teams early on here. But Tech being the highest ranked at 12, does that feel low to you at all? Or is it not all that surprising when you look at who's above them? And there's just such a gaggle, I think, of unknowns this year with so many major programs that could also be what plays into it. Or are they a bit too low for what your expectation is?
Yeah, that's a top 10 team. I have no doubt in my mind. So, I mean, yeah, I think for Ole Miss, Oklahoma, and LSU to all finish ahead, probably even throw A&M in the mix. That's surprising. I mean, I probably would have them based on this poll, probably 9th behind A&M. I think it's a top 10 team, and the fact that you've got A&M, Ole Miss, and Oklahoma, and LSU all in front of them says basically like, hey, we think this gaggle of SEC teams is that much better than the top of the Big 12, which we've been down this road before. The SEC the last couple of years has gotten a ton of playoff teams and hasn't had a ton of success with that. So, why not reshuffle the deck and reset it and put them again there? I mean, Ole Miss at 9th seems a bit optimistic. I'd say the same for LSU. But yeah, Texas Tech is, I think, a team that probably should be in the top 10. I think the talent that they have, regardless of who they lost, it's pretty well documented, the type of players they've added, especially on the defensive end, that, if they're not going to be as good defensively, and that was a record-setting defense, they're going to be pretty close. So yeah, I mean, the one I would say would be Tech at 12 is kind of egregious. And honestly, when you look at like Bill Connolly's SP+, his preseason SP+ has Texas Tech 7th in the country, and then BYU is in the 20s. So the spread the AP and coaches poll have between Texas Tech and BYU is not nearly as severe as the spread that Bill Connolly has from SP+. And I tend to trust Bill more than I trust anybody else. But again, it sort of seems to be how it comes for the Big 12, right? Like they just kind of always group the Big 12 teams together. They don't really know how to differentiate. And that's sort of a perception thing the Big 12 needs to get out of.
And why BYU, when they get Notre Dame, even though it's later on, or when anyone has a chance, Arizona State at A&M, I know they're not going to be favored. They're going to be heavy underdogs. But you have to pull one of those off. You have to have some meat on the bone, correct?
Yeah, I mean, look, BYU Notre Dame is going to be tough. BYU was already a 10-point underdog at home. But like, Smokey, this is sort of the nature of the beast of the Big 12 right now. The Big 12 is judged based on one football game. There's 16 teams, each will play 12. Mm-hmm. So you do the math, and of all of the games, it's a high volume of games. It's one or two games that the conference gets judged on. And fair or unfair, and unfair is what I would go with, because the SEC, again, going back to them, and I'm not trying to say that the Big 12 is an equal footing of the SEC. I still think the SEC is a better conference, but the Big 12 has closed the gap, in my opinion. It's just the perception is just so vast. And when we look at the results, it's as if the SEC is not getting the due punishment for how bad they've been in the playoff, whereas the Big 12, in the one game sample that seems to be the judge for how the entire Big 12 season went, Texas Tech and Oregon, the Texas Tech obviously did not play well, got blown out, didn't score, but it's one game. It's one game to judge the Big 12. And I think when you go to this year, like there's probably two games when it comes to BYU Notre Dame, and then whatever that playoff game is. Maybe Texas A&M, Arizona State, maybe some of the other big ones, Oklahoma State, Oregon, but it just is sort of a fool's errand, so to speak, to judge an entire conference output based on one game, or in this case, just a few games, whereas we have other conferences that don't get judged that loosely.
Ari, Rich Rod in West Virginia this season seems like their fan base is optimistic. I like the possibilities at quarterback if things been positive for them, although there are questions. Michael Hawkins, last time I watched him at Oklahoma, was still very green, and I don't know how much that's changed, but Scotty Fox showed some things last year for a young guy. So I think they'll be able to run the football pretty effectively. How good do you think they might actually be this year?
Yeah, Craig, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like, there's one thing, and we're doing our countdown to kickoff these last few weeks. And, one of the things that we're going over with each team is what do we know? And I think with West Virginia, we know they're going to have an effective ground game. They bring in the country's leading rusher last year, and Cam Cook, who has his second go around with the Big 12, didn't have as much success at TCU as he did at Jacksonville State. He comes over with his offensive line coach and Rick Trickett, who's a guy that's long worked for Rich Rod. And so, much of the dialogue around Rich Rod this offseason and then at media days a few weeks ago was, the excitement for which they feel like they're going to be able to unlock their running game. We asked questions of Rich Rod about the defense, and suddenly he's talking about the offense and the offensive line and how much better it looks. And I mean, it didn't take much. The offensive line was pretty bad last year, and I think there's a lot of get off the bus motivation in terms of they would get off the bus and not really look like a Big 12 team on their offensive line, and now they do. And so I think there's a great battle there. So I do think they're going to have an effective ground game. And last time I checked, if you can run the ball on Rich Rod's offense, you can do a lot. Now, here's the thing about West Virginia to me that stands out. And this doesn't, mean as much this year, but I think it's something to pay attention to with the guys that do emerge. West Virginia was really good in recruiting this year. They brought in a couple of 4-stars, 5-star in their offensive line. Matt Sieg is another guy that was a late commitment after he decommits from Penn State. They've got some players, and this is one of their better recruiting classes. And then in the portal, they brought in multiple year guys as well. And that was all a part of what they wanted to do. They wanted to bring in guys with multiple years of eligibility left in order to sort of, build it year one and then really solidify it year two. That's all well and good, but if you're West Virginia, we've seen within recent history the inability to keep those guys. Akeem Mesidor is a name that comes to mind. Cam Vaughn was just kicked off the Miami football team, but he's a guy that emerged last year for West Virginia. Maybe it was a good thing he's no longer with West Virginia, but the point remains, it's one thing to recruit those types of guys. It's another thing to have the coffers in order to pay for it when those guys have success this year. So, look, I think they're going to take a step forward this year. I certainly think they could be a bowl team. Do I think they're going to compete for a Big 12 championship? No, I think that's what 2027 is about if 2026 goes well. But again, this recruiting strategy is, in my opinion, the right approach, so long as you have the money to back it up. Because if you build these guys up and then suddenly they're all out the door to Miami, then it didn't matter that they had multiple years of eligibility left because they left you as soon as they could. So I think that's in many ways what this year is about for Rich Rod.
So, Ari, they're a part of a group of teams that were at the bottom last year, maybe even for the last couple of years, and we're kind of all wondering who that wild card's going to be that's better than expected. Maybe it's Colorado. I'm not super high on them, but I could see how that works out differently. Kansas, I know there's really not any talk about them whatsoever right now, and there's others. Not to try to single out and dunk on a fan base, but who are you most confident in that you're not confident that they're going to be very good this year?
Well, I guess I'll just dunk on my own alma mater then, since you brought them up. I'm not very confident in Kansas. With that being said, though, I think Andy Kotelnicki coming back is reason for optimism beyond anything else. The last couple of years, from what we've seen, Lance Leipold just has not shown really an ability to make decisions within a game aggressive enough to win you the football game. There are a lot of times that we've seen, and last year is a pretty good indication of it, that he plays not to lose. And in doing that, they've lost those games. They've lost a ton of close games over the last 2 years, and I think you could trace that back to some of the decision-making by their head coach. They also have major question marks at quarterback. It looks like Cole Ballard will start. He's a guy that started a couple of years ago as a true freshman walk-on. He's the son of Chris Ballard, the Indianapolis Colts GM. But he doesn't have exactly the Kotelnicki skill set that Isaiah Marshall, who's in his third year, and he was a high 3-star coming out of the Detroit area. I think most people with Kotelnicki coming back expected Marshall to be the starter, and so far he just hasn't taken it. And maybe that's part of Leipold's he's more confident and comfortable with Cole Ballard, and that's just the comfort that he has, and it's the playing not to lose mentality. Or if it's, Isaiah Marshall has legitimate limitations with his arm. But that's certainly a team that I'm pretty confident is going to be towards the bottom of the conference this year. They also, they've given up the one home game, so they've got less home games this year because they gave up the one to go play across the pond in London at Wembley, and so Kansas is going to be playing with kind of a 60% stadium as they continue to build, the east side of the stands and then the hotel and everything else they're building on to the stadium. So I think, Kansas is a team I'm pretty confident it's going to be towards the bottom. I also think, Iowa State is a team that I'm a big believer in Jimmy Rogers, but they don't really have many power four players or guys that have performed and played at a high level within this level. And, Rogers did it last year. He brought an entirely new roster to Washington State and had a ton of success by getting to a bowl game. So maybe lightning can strike for a second time for Iowa State, but I'm pretty confident there. And then, Cincinnati's a team that we had in our consensus poll 16th in the Big 12. Yet, despite that, they have one of the best offensive lines in the Big 12. And so you wonder if, J.C. French and this new quarterback, if they have a little bit more upside than what was expected. So it's important for me to note that Cincinnati is 16th in our consensus pool, so I don't have them very high. Iowa State and Kansas are the two others that I have 15th and 14th in my preseason poll, but I'm sort of less pessimistic about Cincinnati because they do have one of the best offensive lines in the Big 12, and normally that's a recipe for success.
If I recall at Big 12 media days over the last 2 to 3 years, that I remember Neil Brown had a chip on his shoulder when West Virginia was overlooked and maybe picked last, and he talked about his offensive line. I think Satterfield maybe 2 or 3 years ago did the same thing. I know that Whittingham did a year ago, and we knew they were going to be pretty good, but it seems like that's a theme of a team that's overlooked, but their offensive line is good, and they're better than anyone would have thought.
Well, and look, Satterfield, as much as we talk about Dave Aranda being on the hot seat, Scott Satterfield is every bit as much on the hot seat too. And when you bring that up, Smokey, it's funny because I go back to what Sonny Dykes told me a few years ago, and that was, TCU did kind of a deep dive study on success in the Big 12, and this is sort of funny, like what a novel concept. He who runs the ball the best ends up winning the Big 12 or ends up in Arlington. And, it's like even Sonny joked about, like, I didn't need to do a study to figure that out, but that's the case here. And it's held serve. Texas Tech and BYU were two of the best rush offenses in the country last year, and it's not a coincidence they played for the Big 12 championship. Go back the year before, Camp Scadaboo was one of the best backs in college football, and and on and on and on. So as much as this has become a throwing sport, it's still a ground game that plays a huge, crucial role in the success, and I think that's why TCU has transitioned from the Kendall Briles offense to more of a Gordon Samus ground and pound offense. We're going to see Iowa State look a whole heck of a lot different than they've looked, especially defensively with, that John Haycock 3-3-5 is going to make way for a traditional 3-4. We're going to see, 3 linebackers on the field for Iowa State this year, which I'm sure Iowa State fans will have to sort of recalibrate their eyes when they see that, because it's been a long time since they've seen 3 linebackers in the field. They've seen 2 linebackers, the safety, or 1 linebacker and 2 safeties that play linebacker. But so I just think it speaks to sort of where this league is going. The league is probably getting more away from spread offenses. And as I say that, Oklahoma State's going to be a throwback to the old Briles Leach offense that we've seen in the Big 12. So, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be effective running the football too. But yeah, I think Cincinnati's a team, as we talk through, like, they have a good offensive line. I think they've got a good stable of backs where somebody can emerge. And, last year with Sorsby, like, they were so reliant on him and his talent, whereas it feels like this year they have more of a game manager. I don't think that's a negative thing about J.C. French. I just think he's the type of guy where it's like he'll go to what the read shows him that where he should go and go with the football. And he also, sort of underrated, has rushed for over 600 yards from the quarterback spot last 2 years. Remember, that includes sack totals, and he was sacked 29 times last year, which is just an insane number at Georgia Southern. So, again, I'm not totally optimistic about Cincinnati, but I think, Smokey, to your point, like, look at offensive lines, look at who can run the football. And I think if you find anybody in there that's checks both of those boxes, you're probably looking at a team that's going to compete for Arlington.
Jimmy Rogers is a pretty intense cat, isn't he? What have you kind of read on your end from him, and what has it led you to kind of think about this upcoming season?
Yeah, so first impression of Jimmy is we have him on shortly after he's hired, and really nice guy, super humble, whatever, very approachable. So we're going over his season last year, and it's like, man, what an unbelievable season. You come in year one, you totally turn over the roster, you get to 6-6. What a season. And he took that question as like a negative, like, oh, that was a really disappointing year. We should have won more games. I'm mad we ended up at 5. So that was like my first sense, Craig, of like, yeah, this cat's like got different expectations. Like when you take over a program and you move up a level as he was doing, and you completely turn over their roster and you still get to 6 wins in a bowl game, that to me looks like a success. And yet in his mind, it was completely unsuccessful, and he still had a bad taste in his mouth. And I think that says just a lot about Jimmy. We were like, yeah, what a season. And he's like, we should have won more games, had opportunities to win more. Man, it would have been nice to win more games. So and I think for Iowa State fans, like 6 wins would be a miracle. And it feels like with Jimmy Rogers, he'll go after the season, he'll be like, that wasn't enough. And that's the type of coach you want. Look, I'm a believer in Jimmy Rogers long-term. There just is not, as I mentioned earlier, a ton of proven talent at this level on the roster, but they're going to use that as a chip on their shoulder. And look, we know that's always a tough place to play. Ames is always a tough place to play. So all those road games that teams have, they're just going in thinking it's a win. Those will be some of the toughest wins to come by, especially late in the season, where teams need wins to get to Arlington, and Iowa State might be stumbling and bumbling along, and suddenly it's like, you got a November game in a cold, snowy Ames. Good luck with that one.
So we just talked to you 3-4 days ago, and when we did, we talked to you about all the noise surrounding Kalani Sitake and the interview he had done, and then like here in the last 24 hours, there's like this big ESPN article about how he's your favorite coach's favorite coach, and we all know that from talking to the Big 12 coaches. They absolutely adore the guy, like everybody does who comes across his path, and there's all these various articles. You were pretty convinced that this won't have much of an effect on the field, and I agree with you. I think that they'll handle that. But has anything changed for you in the last 3-4 days since we last talked? Like another log on the fire? Or do you feel pretty much the same as is when we last spoke?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same, but I think even more on the side of like, what are we doing here? Like if you're BYU, you have this drama now percolating to the surface, a completely avoidable distraction right on the doorstep of one of the most promising seasons, if not the promising season in the history of the BYU football program. It's like, it's one thing to have external forces at play that are causing this, but this is all internal. It's nonsensical. And, I know Brian Santiago a little bit, and from what I know, like this doesn't add up. This doesn't make any sense. We even had Mitch Harper from KSL Sports on earlier, and his indication was like, BYU could have committed to not spending the money they're spending on Kalani Sitake and his assistants and the NIL. They could have said, you know what, Kalani, go ahead, you can walk. And they could have brought in Jay Hill, and he could have been their head coach. And this is stuff that Mitch Harper was saying to us this morning. It's like, whoa, I never anticipated that Kalani Sitake was ever even close, an iota, to leaving. And now we hear like, yeah, I mean, BYU really made this investment in order to buy into football in a way that we haven't seen before. It was just eye-opening to me, where it was like, how could you walk away from this guy? And I think, the piece you alluded to just shows how many friends Kalani has. And not just that, but like, I think if you're a reasonable person, if you're looking at this with like just the most reasonable vantage point, like here's a guy that does everything the right way. He never airs out his dirty laundry in public. And even in this situation, as upset as he might be, and he clearly is, like he's still not airing dirty laundry out in public in the way many others would. He's got so many people in the media going to bat for him. And that's not to say those are relationships based. I think it's more of like what are we doing here? Like, I think most people are putting on their rational thought hats here and thinking like, none of this makes any sense whatsoever. Oh, and by the way, this didn't come out of the blue. Like you agreed to all of this. Mm-hmm. So, again, without having a total understanding of what's happening in the inner workings of BYU, like there's definitely a lot of layers to this in terms of the structure and the infrastructure in place for these things to go through. But I think it's obvious that in the side of, are you going with Brian Santiago or Kalani Sitake, that BYU would say Sitake.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of simmering, and maybe it gets worse, but man, they got to tie that up. Ari, thank you. Appreciate your time, my friend. Have
Almost
a great
there.
week. Yep.
Almost there.
Almost.
So
right
close.
around the
Next week's a
corner.
game week, guys. Can't wait.
Yes.
Take care.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's what we are. That's how we started the show, that we have one more week, and here we go with games being played. So that's Ari Temkin. We'll hear from Iowa State, what's going on with the Cyclones, and Jimmy Rogers a little bit later on in the show with Jake Brend. We're now joined by Heather Dinich of ESPN, who is all over college football playoff committee, and the way that the tug of war of whatever's going on. But she's also written a book, Never Flinch, on football family, and finding my seat at the table. And Heather Dinich joins us, David and Craig Smoak on 365 Sports. Let's discuss the book right off the top, Heather. When did this come into play? I know you've got so many stories. Did you write things down in a diary or jot notes down? How did you get to this point?
Would love to answer your question because I saw your lips stop moving, but I put in the chat that I cannot hear the show, so I'm not sure what you're saying. Maybe we can work out the technology glitch and come back to me.
We'll take a break. We're going to take a break. We'll take a commercial break, and Rez, try to get Heather our audio and get back with her from ESPN. Heather Dinich next on The Smoke Show and 365 Sports. QC Kinetics. I ran a couple of miles today, and I'll run 1 or 2 tomorrow. And then by the end of each week, and I'm on a kind of a nice little pace, I'm not going to overdo it, but I can do it, which for 4.5 to 5 years, I could not jog 100 yards, much less 10. And now 15 miles a week, it's not just for a fitness thing. It's also for peace of mind. So many different ideas that I have when I'm running, jogging, for however long it might be. QC Kinetics can help you get there. They help me get to where I am today, and that is feeling much better. The tug, the pull, the pain in my right hip that I had injections and steroids and all of that for years. It just didn't work. It kicked the can down the road. QC Kinetics, I went and saw them in September. Free consultation, locations in both Dallas and Houston. And after the consultation, I said, let's go. And I am so happy that I did that, because now I'm mobile, now I'm healthy and pain-free, and you can be that way too. Here are the numbers to call in the Houston and Dallas area. We'll put them up on the screen here, Rez, when you can, in just a moment. Here's what they do. 972-972-8610, 713 in Houston, 913-5285, QC Kinetics. What they do is they take what is inside your own body, your natural biologics, and they use that to heal you. You healing you. Taking your plasma, your platelets, your stem cells, bone marrow. They take that and they insert it back inside of your body. In other words, they draw blood, they spin it, and then they inject it into whatever hurts. Shoulder, back, hip, joints, whatever it might be. And in the case of me, it was my right hip. And I have been rolling along, feeling great about it, and I want you to feel the same way. QC Kinetics will not just make you feel good for a little bit. It will get rid of the pain. It's gotten rid of mine that I could not handle. It got to the point of frustration for 4.5 to 5 years. So now I feel good about it, and I love talking about QC Kinetics. 972-972-8610, Houston 713-913-5285 at QCKinetics.com.
Many years ago, Berg and Ford made a commitment, not just to sell Fords, but to serve Waco. What began in 1936 wasn't a transaction, it was a partnership built through hard work, quality, and integrity. Mile by mile, for over 4 generations, Berg has been driven by Waco. Thank you for the road we've traveled together and the miles that lay ahead.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
At Tarleton State University, we believe your education should fit your journey. Whether you're starting college or advancing your career, Tarleton State opens the door to what's next. A student-focused education is never far away. Don't change your life to earn a degree. Earn a degree to change your life. Because wherever life takes you, Tarleton State goes with you. Become a Texan today. Visit tarleton.edu.
From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio, now it's time for the Smoak Show. Presented by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans, and we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
Hello. ESPN longtime National College Football insider, ESPN's Heather Dinich, and now author of a book called Never Flinch. She joins us on 365 Sports and YouTube. And Heather, thank you very much for your time. So, did you jot down a lot of information? Did you have a diary to kind of put all this together and decide it was time to write a book? How did this come about?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking me about it. You know, this is something that I wrote over the past year. I probably wrote about a chapter a month during college football season starting last August. And then fast forward it in spring, probably a chapter and a half, 2 chapters to really wrap it up this spring. And as far as the diary goes, we're talking about going back to my days as a student reporter at Indiana University, where I covered the firing of Bob Knight and then went on to cover Joe Paterno for the Center Daily Times. So the diary, part of it, is up in my attic in a green bin with those tapes from my interviews with those coaches and other legendary coaches throughout my career. And honestly, I thought if I could impart some things that I've learned from decades in this industry, then it could help inspire people and entertain them at the same time with so many other things as well. You know, just my career as a working mom and being in this industry and some of the challenges that all working parents deal with, except mine is on camera as I talk with 3 boys upstairs, is a little different and a little bit unique for sure.
Heather, did you always plan on college football being such a big part of your life? Was that ever like that was the intention, or is it kind of how life worked out in the end for you?
No, I think it's really important to find out when you're younger what you don't enjoy as much as what you do and what your strengths are. And I knew I could have a career in writing, and I enjoyed literature and reading, and that side of my brain didn't work in math. And when I was a junior in high school, I drove out from Northeast Pennsylvania to South Bend, Indiana with some of my friends to see Lou Holtz's last home game. And as I sat in the stands of the student section, the wooden bleachers that aren't even there anymore, I thought, oh my gosh, I can get paid to do this. And it's pretty amazing. And so that was kind of a turning point for me.
What do you mean by finding my seat at the table? Is that women in broadcasting? Is that where you are now as an insider in college football? What do you mean by that?
That is a very literal meaning for me. That is our Tuesday night ESPN ranking show at the table, literally, when Booger McFarland, Greg McElroy and Joey Galloway, like those guys this past season had to physically move over to make room for me. And that's a seat that's been earned over the course of decades. And I appreciate them for it, and I let them know that. But it's not just that. It's literally my seat at the college football live table and my seat in New York next to Mike Greenberg on Get Up. I mean, it's the most literal sense of the meaning that you can possibly take. And it's been a long career and a lot of obstacles to get that seat. But I'm so grateful for it. And I think it's a real privilege as a woman in a male dominated industry to have that position, because what makes my job and this book unique is I'm not a sideline reporter and I'm not a host of a show. Those are literally different jobs. I'm a reporter, and to have a role on TV as an analyst to me is something that I don't take lightly.
So you wear your reporter cap and you're professional, but I think most people like myself probably learned that you were an Indiana Hoosier over the last year, probably more than ever before. I would imagine you've been asked, or people have learned that about you as a reporter, but also as a fan. What was it like watching that journey the last couple years, but obviously particularly a year ago or last year?
Yeah, to me, it's really great that a lot of people did not know that I was an Indiana grad, to be honest, because that meant up until that point, I was doing my job pretty darn well. I always used to introduce myself as I'm probably the most unbiased college football reporter we have on our staff, because I went to IU and they've been completely irrelevant for decades. And I obviously couldn't claim that anymore. But I was at the national championship game, and my job that night was to write the game story for ESPN.com that you see immediately on our website on the front page as soon as that game ends. And so I have two screens, two Microsoft Word files up. One is a game story with Indiana winning, and one is a game story with Miami winning. And, I've got like 75% of a story done on Indiana winning because they were. And then Miami starts to come back, and I'm just like, oh my God. So, all I'm thinking in the press box is I gotta get this done. I gotta write some more in Miami because this thing could happen. So once that was finally done and I was able to get down to the field, guys, I saw people I hadn't seen in 20 years from IU. And it was just like, it was overwhelming. And it kind of hit me then like, wow, this is my school. And people were in tears, and it was super cool. It was really neat to be able to be there. But I stand by what I've said before, which a lot of people don't really understand. And it's like, for the Indiana students, I try to tell them, this is your story. This was not my story. I was not emotionally attached to Indiana football ever. Like I went to school there and it was my home, but Bob Knight and Indiana basketball, while I was a student there, that was my story.
Heather, you are now on that show you mentioned on Tuesday evening. And it started back in 14 was the first year they had the playoff. And even that year, there was some controversy with TCU, Baylor, Ohio State, who got in and won it. Do you realize how many people most everybody on Tuesday nights are probably not happy if they're college football fans because of the standings, the way that sometimes they're explained, not by you, but by the people who are the spokespeople for the college football committee.
Oh, for sure. And listen, that's the history of the sport. Back until the dawn of time, when have college football fans ever been happy with whatever poll has been out?
Fair.
Yep.
Ever,
Yep.
right? But listen, in defense of the chair, whoever it might be, in whatever year or season, people need to remember that that person has about 2 minutes with Reese Davis to explain the thoughts of 13 people over the course of a day and a half of deliberations and explain rankings that he or she may not have voted for themselves.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
It is a really hot seat to be in on Tuesday night.
Heather, we've obviously got negotiations going on as far as how this is all going to work in the future. How would you sort of lay out where you feel like we are with all of that right now?
Honestly, I feel like it's at an end as far as the negotiations are not over by any chance. But if I had to pick right this skinny minute, if the college football playoff was going to expand to 24 teams in 2027, my guess would be no. Now, they're going to have another meeting probably virtually between now and mid to late September when they gather in person in Chicago. But the reality is, if it's going to expand to 24 teams in time for next season, they have to unwind these TV contracts with their conference championship games. And as of the last meeting, multiple sources told me that no guarantee was made in that room that they would make enough money to replace the conference championship games, which collectively amongst the Power Four are over $400 million. So, I think it'll happen eventually, but I would be surprised if it happened next year at this point. They have to decide by December 1st.
Heather, I know they've had some mock whatever college football playoff committees. They've done that with media. Are you in at all the meetings each week when they start to release the standings, or are you outside in another room?
No, I'm in another room for the last ranking. I historically have gone down for the first and last ranking through the first 10 years of the playoff. And then for the last two, I've been up at ESPN. Well, this year I'll be up at ESPN. Last year, I want to say was my first one up there, but I only go in the room on selection day just a little bit to see everyone when they're watching games together. It's the only time of the year that they do that.
So I know that you're making the rounds, and I saw where you are pretty high on Texas this year. But Heather, I'm looking at this, and there is like a billion storylines, and I feel like we have that every year rolling into college football. I know there's more parity now because of the bigger playoff and NIL, but am I overstating just how crazy, unpredictable, and how many different wild cards are in play in 2026 for this upcoming season? Or is it just I'm too excited because the season's upcoming?
Well, hopefully both.
Yes, for sure both.
Because we all need some college football here to take us away from all these other things. But no, you're right. I mean, the reality is there is no clear-cut number one. And it's funny because Tennessee fans are losing their mind because I went on Pat McAfee today and I said there's no reason Tennessee should be ranked. I mean, this was like a 4-4 team in the SEC last year. They lost all 4 players from their secondary. They don't know who their starting quarterback is. But more than that, there are other teams like Arizona that should be considered. I mean, there are other teams throughout the rest of the country and other conferences that should be considered for some of these spots. I mean, South Carolina has Lenora Sellers coming back, for crying out loud. I didn't understand the Tennessee pick. You can find other schools in the SEC, I feel like, that have more answers than that. But man, at the top, when you look at Ohio State, Texas, Oregon, Notre Dame, and Georgia, I feel like Georgia has more questions than any of those others. But to me, Notre Dame has a case for number one. Oregon does too. Ohio State. So, You know, you guys know how this goes. It's impossible to predict. It's going to be someone we're not even talking about. And I'm sure Curt Cignetti has something to say about it.
Yeah, Indiana just broke the damn door down. I mean, they just like now, we could expect that every year, but it at least gives people a chance. Heather, how important is it for a conference that does seem to get overlooked and they don't have enough big boy wins in the Big 12 to get BYU, Notre Dame, Arizona State at A&M, to get one of those early on to maybe send a message?
Oh, that's huge. It really is. And, you know, the selection committee will tell you that they don't rank conferences, they rank teams. And it's absolutely true. But the one way that you can really tell at the end of the day, the strength of a conference is how many teams they have ranked in their top 25. And if you have a BYU win against Notre Dame, that is the kind of win, and we saw this with Miami and Notre Dame last year, that continues to impact those conversations. That head-to-head is a tiebreaker if they are comparable, that key phrase in the selection committee protocol. So when you get those types of wins, I think that makes a statement for an entire conference too.
All right, let's go back in your book. And I'm going to tell everybody, in fact, I have a sheet of paper. I printed it out earlier today. Somebody sent you a copy. They ordered one online. Order placed. Thank you. Shipping to Veronica. When you were in the business early on, did you ever feel like you were not, it's not that you didn't feel like you weren't going to make it, but you had to like be persevere and be resilient in the business?
Oh, I had to work harder and smarter. Because, I mean, you know, I had a young lady approach me at media days in the Big Ten, and she said, "Did you ever feel like you had imposter syndrome?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, "Well, like, do you belong? Do you feel like you belong?" And I said, "You know what?" I said, "I went to Penn State's high school coaching clinic before I started my job covering Penn State football at the Center Daily Times. And I walked up to their offensive line coach, Dick Anderson at the time, and asked him to tell me about zone blocking. And I said, when you go up to coaches and you ask them and you show an interest and you really, and with anything, in any profession, show someone that you care enough about what they're doing to learn more about it, that earns you respect, I think. And, you know, I've continued to do things like that and ask questions. I read Paterno's whole book before I went there and I sat down with him in his office. So it's about preparation. It's about doing your homework. It's about working your ass off so that you are completely prepared when the time comes to do the job.
Did you ever have a job you didn't get that broke you enough to where you, I'm not saying got emotional and broke down, maybe you did, that you felt like it's not going to be?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's part of it. I'm not going to give it all away, though. You guys gotta pre-order the book.
I know, because that's always a story that everyone just says, there's Heather Dinich, ESPN, playoff, etc. Tuesday night, but there are bumps and hurdles in the road. That's what I look forward to reading it in your book as well.
I mean, I'll tell you this, man. When I was in college at Indiana University trying to get an internship, I put every rejection letter I got from newspapers and I taped them up to my wall. And it was covered. But I tell students this all the time and other people too. It takes one yes to change your life.
Absolutely.
One yes.
Yep. Absolutely. Heather, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Bookshop, Hudson Booksellers, Target, Walmart, hardcover $30, ebook $15.99, audiobook available for $24.99. Grand Central Publishing, and love the name of the book. I really do. Never Flinch. Heather Dinich, ESPN. Good luck with the book and the sales, and also have a great football season.
I appreciate your support so very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather Dinich with us on ESPN and on Tuesday nights. And a lot of times the broadcasters, they give their opinions. Heather gives the information, the insight she's hearing as well from sources. But I mean, it's a show that people could lose their mind over, just like the AP preseason poll that came out earlier today. When we come back, Iowa State, we had Ari on just a minute ago from Big 12 Radio on Jimmy Rogers, who we found to be incredibly intense, but focused and locked in when we had him on during Big 12 Media Days. Jake Brend on the Cyclones and what they've been through as they continue their fall workouts. This is 365 Sports. Home Place Interiors. Mentioned last week, a good friend of mine that was the original owner of Home Place Interiors, John Proctor, had a hole-in-one over the last week on number 5. It's a par 3 at Bear Ridge up the hill. And I played golf with him yesterday. Home Place Interiors can help you with what you need when it comes to redesigning, fixing up the look, or giving everything you have at home, whether it's a bedroom or more. It is the hallway, a living room, a dining room, maybe a den, whatever flooring you have, they can fix it up for you. Every single day for them is rug season. Every single day they have beautiful design rugs. If you walk in the front door at Home Place Interiors off to the right, you walk in and there are just gorgeous colors and schemes of just area rugs, larger rugs, and that can, of course, spice up your home, apartment, or even your office. Home Place Interiors has been around for over 20 years. Stephanie and Selena, what they do is help you, and they can also give you advice on a custom rug to help inside your home or where you live or where you work. Katie's there. John is there. Home Place Interiors, 20 plus years of experience. And if you look at homeplaceinteriorstx.com, the great reviews they have for customers who have bought their product and had the installation at Home Place Interiors off Lake Air Drive in Waco.
The summer event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Check out the new 2026 Jeep Gladiator Mojave. Your choice is 0% for 36 months or save $10,000. Take off the top. Hit the road. Allen Samuels Jeep.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Have you heard of the new IRA, the Insured Retirement Advantage? It's a strategy for younger high-income earners and small business owners who want to get serious about retirement. The Insured Retirement Advantage can help you build a tax-free income stream for retirement, protect your family's legacy, keep your capital working efficiently, and you don't need ultra-high net worth status to qualify. Call 623-256-6902 or go to northstarfundingpartners.com and tell them 365 Sports sent you.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Hi, I'm Dana Hassel, President and CEO of American Bank. Waco is a great place for business, and for more than 70 years, American Bank has been the bank for business. We continue to invest in our growing community with state-of-the-art branches conveniently located to serve you within minutes. Our experienced bankers, lenders, and decision makers work directly with business owners like you every day, providing tailored solutions, timely answers, and local insights, face-to-face. Schedule a meeting with one of our bankers today and find out what makes American Bank the bank for your business. Member FDIC.
At Home Place Interiors, we elevate your space with elegance and class. We are the exclusive Sonoma tile dealer in Central Texas, bringing you the best in high-end floor coverings that transform your home with beauty and elegant design. Our white glove service and expert consultations ensure your vision becomes a reality as we take you step by step through the process. Call today to schedule your personal design consultation. Visit homeplaceinteriorstx.com. Home Place Interiors, crafting elegance, one room at a time.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Craig.
And as we slowly but surely kind of go back and look at some of the Big 12 teams as they are not wrapping up quite yet, some soon, Big 12 or the fall workouts for the upcoming season. Iowa State, we just brought up Jimmy Rogers a minute ago and enjoyed our time with him. Jake Bren, Cyclone Fanatic, Chief Content Producer, and joins us on 365 Sports from Cyclone Fanatic. Jake, thank you. Appreciate your time. I saw the poll. This has nothing about this year's team, but the poll of the greatest Iowa State football player of all time. Is Troy Davis winning that, or have you been able to see the votes yet?
Purdy's got a slight edge right now.
Okay.
I want to say last I looked, it was like 47% to like 45%. It's close, though. It's about what I expected.
Yeah, obviously Purdy, Breece Hall, Troy Davis, and Will McDonald, the fourth. So, first year, Jimmy Rogers, very intense. He's won where he's been. What would you say overall, what you've seen, just in a generic fashion from him so far?
Yeah, the way that I've described him, it's kind of like picture yourself going to a 1A football school or an 8-man football school and going up to talk to the linebackers coach. That linebackers coach is just going to tell you what he thinks, and he's not going to sugarcoat things. And that's really what Rodgers has been. And at least for the media, that's been a very big breath of fresh air, I think. Matt Campbell was incredible. He was a coach that was great when you got him off to the side. But when he was on the podium, he went in full robot self-help book mode, and that was by design to not get clipped or anything like that. And Rodgers has been the exact opposite. He's been about the same on the podium as he has off the record. And it's really helped, I think, engage this fan base that had rightfully been, I think, cold based off of what happened last December. And it took a lot for them to get back on board for this new era, but this staff has been making the rounds, going on podcasts, doing all that stuff, going on the tailgate tour, and I think the fan base is pretty bought in heading to the first year of the Jimmy Rogers era, and I don't know if I would have said that was the case back in March.
You kind of answered what I was going to ask you about, just sort of what the feel is around Ames, Iowa right now. Is it excitement? Is it still some hesitation? How would you best describe sort of this feel as we get closer to this opening game and whatever this looks like for better or worse on the other side of it?
Yeah, it's probably a mixture of the two. I think there's a lot of excitement for a season that just doesn't really have any expectations. When you look back at it, between football and basketball, really the last 5 years, almost every single season, it's felt like once you get to the end or once you get to the games that matters, there's always a weight on it as like, okay, if they lose this, is Matt Campbell going to leave? Or You've got this Final Four potential, who's going to get hurt? Stuff like that. And this football season, I think if you polled the fan base, the vast majority would say, hey, make a bowl game, we're going to be really happy. And I don't think, even if they miss a bowl game, I don't think the season's going to be some sort of disaster regardless of the result. And I think fans are kind of just excited for that, and they're excited to see what this new era of Cyclone football looks like at Jack Trice Stadium.
What do you think will be the personality of the Cyclones football team?
They're going to be an upper Midwest FCS style team. When you think about the North Dakota States, the South Dakota States, the Montana schools, you think about the University of Iowa, they're going to play a pretty similar brand to that. Pro style on offense, they're going to be back under center, power run game up the middle, short passing game to move the sticks. Defense, they're going back to a 4-2-5. No more three-man front names after a decade where John Haycock really brought that to college football. They're going back to a more traditional look. They'll rush the quarterback. They'll bring 4, 5, 6-man blitzes. So it'll be a traditional upper Midwest cold style of football that you're kind of accustomed seeing back in the Big Ten West days. And that'll be a change for Iowa State, as they had been a spread offense for the last decade or so. And that will not be the case with Tyler Roll, the offensive coordinator, who comes back to Iowa State after his time with the Detroit Lions. He was the offensive coordinator at North Dakota State for years prior to coming to Iowa State back in 24.
So with his offense and Jalen Rayner, the big pickup at quarterback, what have been kind of your early reads and I guess feelings on what you're expecting, what you've thought of kind of what's been said or what you've seen on Rayner specifically, and just, what kind of player are folks going to be watching this season, you think?
Yeah, it's a unique situation because Iowa State fans actually know Rayner. They knew him before he got to Iowa State. Iowa State had a home and home with Arkansas State the last 2 seasons. So a couple of years ago, Arkansas State came into Ames, got blown out. Rayner didn't look good. But this past year, Iowa State actually went down to Jonesboro, and they flirted with a loss big time that day.
Right, yeah.
And a lot of that had to do with Rayner, who didn't have a lot of help at Arkansas State. They were a solid Sun Belt team, but there were a few instances in that game where it was a 3rd and 13. Rayner looked dead in the water and was able to extend plays. And that, I think, above else, is the type of quarterback that Iowa State's going to need this season. They're not going to go up and put 30 points a game. I would be shocked if they were close to that. The way Iowa State wants to win games this season, they're going to want to try and win games 20-17, 17-13. And for that, the job of the quarterback, don't turn it over, pick up big first downs where you need it. They're not going to have him airing the ball out a lot. Sure, I'm sure they'll test downfield. They're not going to play the sport on a 20-yard field. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to be what we saw with Rocco Beck the past few years. Just chuck it up to Jaden Higgins and hope he comes down with it. It'll be a very controlled style of football, and we'll see if he's up to it. There's rightfully questions still with Rayner in terms of production. 19-11 touchdown interception ratio last year at Arkansas State. Not exactly the best you'll see from a group of 5 quarterback coming up to the Big 12, but he still started 36 games. I believe that's the 4th most of any quarterback starting in Power 4 this year. So he's got the experience, he's got the leadership, and that's the thing that we hear the most about. He, within a week of being in Ames, memorized all 126 players on the roster, stood up in front of the room and named everyone off in a row. So that leadership piece is there. It'll just be a matter of, is he poised and talented enough to be a top half of the Big 12 quarterback? And that's still to be seen.
So Jamie Pollard, of course, we had him as an interview.
Great interview.
Thank you very much. I mean, there were things we weren't expecting him to discuss or even mention, and glad we had him on. He's been a great friend of the show. Is that even out there anymore? Because he's going to be gone, he even said, by sometime in October, November. Is that affected anything football in any way?
I don't think so. Jimmy Rogers actually got asked about it for the first time a couple weeks ago. And he said that when he got hired, he knew that Pollard wasn't going to be there in the long run. I would guess he was probably a little surprised it happened this quick. But at the end of the day, the job for Rogers is to put together a roster with the money that he's given. And this next athletics director will be just as driven as Pollard was to be able to give his football and basketball programs as much rev share money as possible. So I don't think it changes a ton, but obviously when you're a new head coach, it always worries you a little bit when a new AD steps in, because maybe he wants to bring his guy. But I really do think in this case, I think Rogers is pretty firm here, and I don't think the seat gets any warmer with a new AD wanting to bring in his own guy. But that's just my read on the situation.
So, Jake, we've kind of asked you, I think, probably most of the typical big picture questions that people have about Iowa State, right? From AD to new head coach to quarterback. As the insider, what are the things that you feel like maybe aren't being talked about as much, for better or for worse, or things of interest to somebody who's so deep within knowing that program? What's of most interest to you heading into this season?
Yeah, I think there's an interesting storyline that's going on between Iowa State and Oklahoma State. And I think it opens up a pretty big discussion on how we, just in general, as college football fans, as college football media, value the flash kind of against defense, if you will. So Oklahoma State, they're bringing pretty much the whole North Texas offense. That was great last year. And Iowa State's doing the same with Washington State, but from the defensive end. And I think the Iowa State defense is probably being a little bit underlooked when you look at what they accomplished last year. Rogers put that roster together in pretty much a week and brought a lot of South Dakota State guys and was able to produce that defense. Of course, when you look at what Eric Morris did compared to Rogers in this case, I think Oklahoma State's got a higher bar of talent coming in. But I do think that the Iowa State defense has a chance to be pretty good when you look at what they were able to do over the last 9 games of the season last year, averaged 13 points a game for opposing defenses, and got a pretty bad offense into positions to win games last year. They were a drive away from beating Ole Miss at the Grove last season. So I think if a lot of that's able to translate, that could be the path where Iowa State's maybe fighting for bowl eligibility.
Yeah, and where are they, you think? We even have seen a place like BYU with Kalani Sitake is fighting, and I don't want to use the word fighting to create that, but they trying to make sure his guys are taken care of, the program's taken care of after Penn State nibbled. Where is Iowa State, Jake, when it comes to the 16 teams in the Big 12 on getting enough to be able to compete?
I mean, they're definitely in the bottom quarter, if I had to guess. Pollard himself, after Rogers' introductory press conference last year, shared the budget for all of these teams. And at the time, I think he said basketball was 6. That number's closer to 10 now. But he said that Rogers' budget to build this roster that they've got right now is $13 million, which would definitely be towards the bottom of the league. A lot of that will depend. Does Rogers win year one? That will get money coming his way. And also, I do think a lot of it comes down to the new regime. Jamie Pollard is maybe the single most influential figure in the history of Iowa State, but I would argue that there's more that could have been done the last 5 years when it comes to being ahead of the curve on NIL and rev share. But it is a tough spot. So I don't even know if you blame Pollard for that. I do just think there's probably the next guy will have a fresh perspective on how to get more money from elsewhere. But Pollard has made pretty well of a tough situation, but there's probably still a little bit more money to be out there. And we'll see. Rogers is actually aware of that, and he got asked about that last year and said, hey, man, I had $2 million to put together a roster at Washington State. So he was pretty thankful for the 13. But if you win 7 games, you know that staff will want more because the players will want more. And that's a lot of the problems that Matt Campbell and his staff face. So we'll see what new president David Cook is able to throw together.
Modern day college football, baby. Definitely.
You gotta love it.
Oh yeah. Gotta love it. Sometimes you gotta hate it too, but man, it is something else and it's entertaining. Jake, I don't know if you've got like an official prediction. I was just curious. We're not going to hold you to it or anything, but just, I respect your opinion. I really enjoy your daily clone videos. It's a great way to keep up with Iowa State, and you guys at Cyclone Fanatic just do an unbelievable job as far as team sites go. You're like right up there with the very best, but not holding you to it or anything, but do you have an official prediction that you haven't released or you have released that you feel is what you're expecting this year?
I'm not too far off of Vegas. I keep going back and forth between 5-7 and 6-6. And I really think there's a game at the end of September against West Virginia that could really determine a lot of the season. Because if you look at the schedule, October's brutal. The way Iowa State opens up Big 12, 3 of their first 4 games are Utah, BYU, Arizona, and then Oklahoma State after that. That's a really tough ask, especially when you factor in playing Iowa at Kinnick Stadium. That West Virginia game, if Iowa State's able to get that leaves at least November open with the softer schedule to be able to fight for that bowl eligibility. And I think that's a big key when you look at a team that has a lot of guys that are coming up from South Dakota State 2 years ago, Washington State last year. I think they'll be a lot better in November than they are September. They've just got to have something to play for, if you will. And I trust Rogers to be able to motivate regardless. But if they're able to beat West Virginia in Ames at the end of September, I think that's the key to bowl eligibility. And at that point, it just comes down to taking care of business against Cincinnati, potentially winning a road game at BYU or excuse me, not BYU. That probably will not be happening. At Baylor, at UCF, and then closing the season with K-State. So I'll stand firm at 5-7, 4-8 to 7-5 in that ballpark wouldn't stun me. I think anything outside of that ballpark, though, I'd be pretty surprised.
I was asked to ask you about Kyle Conradi, the kicker. He had a hell of a year 2 years ago, scored over 100 points with field goals and extra points. Not as much last year. It might have been because Iowa State also struggled a little bit. How good a player? Is he a weapon for them?
Oh, yeah, he's incredible. And that's probably the most talked about storyline from last year. Conradi missed 4 games in the middle of the season. He had a hip flexor injury, and there was a point where Iowa State had an offensive lineman kicking off. They couldn't kick field goals or extra points because they had, I can't believe this is the case. They had 3 kickers injured at one point. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So losing Conradi hurt a lot. He is absolutely a weapon. And everything back to what I said earlier about the type of football Iowa State's going to play. I keep referencing Iowa because it will be very similar to what we've seen out of Kirk Ferentz's program. They always have a great kicker because they're not scoring a lot of touchdowns. Their goal, hey, get to the 30. Let's see if our guy can kick it in. And that's something Conradi can absolutely do. He made a 63-yarder last year against South Dakota. He's hit game winners in back-to-back years against the Hawkeyes. Conradi's gotten better. He's gotten more reliable, and he is absolutely a weapon. And a fringe contender probably for is it the Lou Groza?
Lou Groza Award.
Yeah, the Lou Groza Award. I think if Conradi continues on the path that he started his first 2 years as a college kicker, he'll absolutely be in the running for that award.
Yeah, that's Lou Groza, the former, long time ago, Cleveland Browns kicker that is named after the best kicker. All right, last thing, Iowa and Iowa State, the Cy-Hawk Trophy. Iowa State's won 3 out of 4? All of them low scoring, which is what you said. That's kind of what, of course, Iowa plays a lot of games that are low scoring. What does that actually mean? Because it's like a jolt of adrenaline, or you get punched in the gut if you don't win that game.
Yeah, it's something that I'm sure you guys down in Texas can relate to in a lot of ways, but there's no Dallas Cowboys here. We don't have the Houston Texans. This is it. And that is the game that determines bragging rights for an entire year. It's a very bitter rivalry, and if you look at the overall history of it, it's lopsided. But if you go back to when Dan McCarney really turned things around at Iowa State in the late 90s, Iowa's got a 1-game lead in the series, and that's over a 25-year sample size. So it's back and forth. It's almost always ugly, and I don't know if fun is the right word, but it's absolutely an intense rivalry and entertaining year in, year out, depending on what you would brand as entertaining in the sport of football. But here, we love the fumbles. We love kicking. We love ugly football.
And again, Matt Campbell, steady as a rock for so many years, and now with Jimmy Rogers. Jake, great stuff. Really good. Thanks for your time. Appreciate your content with Cyclone Fanatic, and have a great week.
Appreciate you guys for having me.
Yep. Jake Bren with us on 365 Sports. Iowa State, there's been a clump here and there. He's talking about McCarney and how he turned that around, and then have won 2 of the last 3, and all of them tight. 3 of the last 4, I think, all of them incredibly tight. All right, when we come back, we wrap it up with the wheel, the quizzes, poll results, and more. And have you heard of the new IRA Retirement Advantage, Insured Retirement Advantage, IRA, Insured Retirement Advantage, solution for younger, high-income clients, small business owners who want to save money for retirement, and strategy designed to provide the opportunity for tax-free income, retirement, legacy protection, and capital efficiency. All of that without you having to be ultra-high net worth status to qualify. It's available to you, the new IRA, the Insured Retirement Advantage. The number to call on the screen, 623-256-6902, or you can go online to NorthstarFundingPartners.com.
It's the summer event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Check out the new 2026 Jeep Gladiator Mojave. Your choice is 0% for 36 months or save $10,000. Take off the top. Hit the road. Allen Samuels Jeep.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Have you heard of the new IRA, the Insured Retirement Advantage? It's a strategy for younger high-income earners and small business owners who want to get serious about retirement. The Insured Retirement Advantage can help you build a tax-free income stream for retirement, protect your family's legacy, keep your capital working efficiently, And you don't need ultra-high net worth status to qualify. Call 623-256-6902 or go to northstarfundingpartners.com and tell them 365 Sports sent you.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Hi, I'm Dana Hassel, President and CEO of American Bank. Waco is a great place for business, and for more than 70 years, American Bank has been the bank for business. We continue to invest in our growing community with state-of-the-art branches conveniently located to serve you within minutes. Our experienced bankers, lenders, and decision makers work directly with business owners like you every day, providing tailored solutions, timely answers, and local insights, face-to-face. Schedule a meeting with one of our bankers today and find out what makes American Bank the bank for your business. Member FDIC.
At Home Place Interiors, we elevate your space with elegance and class. We are the exclusive Sonoma tile dealer in Central Texas, bringing you the best in high-end floor coverings that transform your home with beauty and elegant design. Our white glove service and expert consultations ensure your vision becomes a reality as we take you step by step through the process. Call today to schedule your personal design consultation. Visit HomePlaceInteriorsTX.com. Home Place Interiors, crafting elegance, one room at a time.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Smoak.
All right, thank you for our guests joining us today, Heather Denich, also Jake Brand, and Ari Temkin. Here are some super chats that Rez has held back for this particular segment. We appreciate that when you do, and the money that we don't really know where it goes, honestly, but it is money that goes to helping us here with this show. I wish it would go to the producers, Garrett, and obviously with Rez. Craig, you'd like a little bit of that too, and so would I. Here we are, retired stockbroker who sent me an email over the weekend. I responded to you, Christopher. New season and my brothers in this at 365 Sports YT room. Thank you very much. Christopher is a part of the chat room and a huge University of Houston fan.
Well, I definitely think we'll be talking quite a bit about the Cougs this upcoming season. A lot of reason for optimism and a lot of reason to believe they can be in that mix for a Big 12 championship. So, very excited about what Willie Fritz has cooking down in H-Town. And that game early on with Texas Tech ought to be one hell of a humdinger there in the end of the first month of the season. So very much looking forward to getting there. We are not far away at all from seeing that game kick off. So little ways to go, but definitely appreciate you, retired stockbroker, and welcome as well to your brothers.
Yeah, he asked me, he had seen next year's Houston schedule, and they have a game with LSU at a neutral site, NRG, which is in the Houston city of Houston, but LSU will pack the stadium too. And then he, 4 games, this is after non-conference, had 4 games on the road in the Big 12 and then 5 games at home, and those aren't in order. That's the schedule Houston will play, but not specifically in order, because that won't be known until sometime in the spring. So there we are with Christopher Myers, retired stockbroker, at his super chat. Also, another super chat that we have, including Julius Maximus. Howdy, David and Craig, with the fresh season upon us. I just want to give sincere good luck to each of the greatest 16 teams. Let's go Big 12. I hope Payson Cougar fan, his team wins it all. And thank you, Julius Maximus, for a fantastic. All super chats are important, but my goodness, a big one there.
Yeah, Julius, very generous, and we thank you for your generosity and your support of the show as well. Great to have you and all the other great BYU fans that have jumped on board with us ever since realignment, really, and the start of that relationship with the Big 12 these last 3 years or so. Been great to have a lot of you folks on board, and hopefully there's many more that will join us like yourself along the way here over this season. Like with Houston, what I said a moment ago, obviously don't need to explain to you, there's massive expectations for BYU. They need to cool down this Kalani Sitake situation from becoming anything more than what it is right now. But beyond that, I think everything looks pretty fantastic from a BYU perspective. So they're in a really good spot with a really good team returning and a great head coach. And I'm very excited to see the Cougars this year and what they can do. And, man, they've been knocking on the door. We'll see if this is the year they can bust on through.
All right, so there we are. 50 big ones. Julius Maximus with the Super Chat. I think there's 2 more. Your pet cat again. Hey, Smokey. He sent this early in the show. Did you share with Craig the pictures I sent you? I missed the final part of the show on Friday. Also, I have not given up. He's going through that Super League. I did not see Craig on Friday, so I didn't share it with him, but I got it back, and we put Brent Key and you in that picture earlier in the show.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Appreciate you sending that along, and big fan of Brent Keys from everything I've learned about him and watching his teams over the years. You as always have been very supportive, and I think we're still figuring out how to go about properly presenting the way of doing things. It's complicated, and we don't want to do a disservice to your work more than anything else. So we'll continue to tinker on that, but it's go ahead and spread it in chat if you want to, if you haven't already, and let everybody else kind of absorb your ideas there for realignment, and we'll see what we can cook up. But as always, thank you for watching.
Appreciate that Super Chat. And one more, and it is from Kim Coulter. Great job on getting Heather Dinich on the show. Great job. Thank you, Kim Coulter. Yeah, it was neat to do that. I saw she had put out the book, promoted the book. I reached out to her on Friday. She answered immediately. We set up today's segment, and she said she would be available again once they start to release the standings at the end of the year.
Yeah, she was good. Just going off of who you see on TV is not the way to go. I think she's a good example of that, because I do think it's very easy to probably watch her from the position of a Big 12 fan or of just certain teams, and you're probably not a fan of hers because you feel like she's got a narrative or a line to toe working for ESPN. And I think she was great in the interview, and it was cool to kind of get into her Indiana background a little bit, and just her thoughts on various things, including how she came up and ended up where she is. And it was interesting to be able to ask her about, like, do you ever plan on college football basically being the center of your life outside of your personal life, obviously. So yeah, she was good. Appreciate you, Kim.
Appreciate that. Thank you for the Super Chats. We do enjoy reading them, and also the fact that you enjoy what we do as content with 365 Sports. Okay. It is time. Craig, I went 2-0 last week without you in the quizzes. We'll get to that in a minute, but it's time to spin the wheel.
Who is a random unheralded player from the past whose jersey you would still proudly wear today? So I'm not much of a jersey wearer, but I won't bog down on that for this question because the point still remains. I was going to say Sean Taylor, but he's not unheralded, and he's not really random to me. So, I guess this is not really for my favorite players type of question, which would be Sean Taylor, Tommy Frazier, Adrian Peterson, among others. Unheralded, man, I guess it'd be like, what am I going for? Like, what audience am I speaking to with my my messaging about the jersey that I'm wearing? I just thought of a random dude, and it's because maybe I just said Adrian Peterson's name, but a guy I really enjoyed watching. I don't know what's become of him in life since football, but random. I'll focus on that word. Unheralded. I think he got some love when he played, but certainly he's not a guy that's like top of mind lately. Manny Johnson at OU.
From Gilmer, Texas.
Yeah, a fellow East Texas guy, and about the same age group too, but a part of a great run of East Texas players, which is where I'm from originally. They were part of those OU teams. And And so, yeah, I just really enjoyed watching Manuel Johnson play, and I hadn't thought about him probably in 10 years up until answering this very question.
Wow.
So that's about as random as you're going to get.
He's 39. He played at Gilmer. He was a quarterback, phenomenal player back when Gilmer and Jeff Traylor started to put up some big numbers and win championships. Then went to Oklahoma, played just a couple of years inside the Cowboys system, didn't do very much, but a really good young man too.
Yeah, he was a really good player for OU, and I feel like that would be pretty random, but it's one of those jerseys you pull out and you go like, that dude knows ball. Like, you're not just some you pull out the Adrian Peterson, like, okay, well, or the Baker Mayfield or the Kyler Murray. It's like, you're new or, those guys are all pretty big, high profile. I think Manuel Johnson's a little bit of a deeper dive, and if I was going to stick with that theme, maybe a Clint Ingram jersey, the old linebacker from Hallsville, also a Sooner as well. So somebody along those lines.
I don't know about unheralded, or I don't have one. The only jerseys I have the Nebraska jerseys that I have never worn. Mike Rozier, Eric Crouch, obviously Tommy Frazier. I don't have an Ndamukong Suh, but he's not unheralded and he's not random. But there's a guy that back in the days when Washington and the NFL, when they won championships, that his name was Monty Coleman. He's a linebacker, never a Pro Bowl player. He kind of was a part-time starter, great special teams. But I always thought of him as kind of the workman-like Army ants that made those teams so good under the Joe Gibbs year. It would be Monty Coleman. And I don't wear jerseys for players or whatever, but if I did and it was unheralded, he would be one I would probably find and wear that just for the moment. All right? Thank you very much. Monty Coleman, I believe, was 51. Now to the quizzes. Can we go 2-0 today? And pitching icon. Yeah, this was terrible. Bad news, but we kind of saw this coming when he tweeted out kind of like a goodbye last week. Tommy John became the namesake for sports' most famous medical procedure. What part of the body does Tommy John surgery repair?
I believe it's the elbow.
It is the elbow. Yeah, it is the elbow. It is absolutely the elbow.
John's surgery is a procedure that replaces a torn ulnar collateral ligament inside the elbow in 1970. Oh, hold on. It's got an exclamation point. Tommy John surgery is a procedure that replaces a torn ulnar collateral ligament inside the elbow. In 1974, Dodgers doctor Frank Jobe replaced John's torn ligament. Using a tendon from his forearm, the experimental procedure saved his career, allowing him to play 14 more seasons and win 164 more games after returning to the mound. So, read quite a bit about those in the last several years. And it was sad, but I mean, he's 83 years old. So that's a nice long life.
I didn't realize that. You know what I did not realize? He ended up winning upper 200s. He pitched for 20-something years. And like they said, 14 years after the surgery, the Tommy John surgery. And Frank Joe's Dr. William Andrews in football with the ACL.
It's James Andrews.
What did I say?
You said William, I think.
He's the running back for the Atlanta Falcons. James Andrews. Those were famous for what they did, but the Tommy John, gentleman, great player, and again, named after the surgery, who passed away. 65 responses and 92 got it right. A lot of people know about the surgery on the elbow.
I can only assume people just maybe thinks it's the shoulder or something like that. They got it wrong. But 83, he did pass away from the evil C that seems to get everybody ultimately. But that's a nice long life. And obviously his name's going to live on for forever and ever, because that surgery is only becoming more of a staple and more of a thing that works and extends guys' careers. So, pretty cool to have that be a part of your history and be such a big part of the history even after you're gone.
It's amazing because Tommy John used to be like ACL in football. That was going to be a maybe career ending. Now you have players with ACL injuries that bounce back a lot quicker. And
now we got guys that are like, he's probably going to have Tommy John
and you don't
soon.
Even think, you don't blink.
He'll be back.
It's not great. You don't want to have it, but it's you don't blink. In fact, it was three of his 5 years after the surgery, he won 20-plus games with the Dodgers and Yankees. All right, quiz number 2. Every August, AP preseason top 25 sparks huge debate across college football. On average, What percentage of preseason ranked teams fall completely out by season's end? Now, we had some nuggets about this, but I don't know if we had, on average, we didn't have that completely. Was it 12 last year, Craig, that we said?
Yeah, I believe it was 12. So that would be
45,
nearly half. So
yeah.
I'd say
45.
I'd say 45% is probably about right. 65 and obviously 85 is way, way too much. And then the 25, I mean, that if we hadn't done the exercise earlier, I feel like maybe I would have leaned there earlier, but I do think there's some pretty good amount of turnover. And I really don't know, like when you look at this year's poll, which is kind of what I was getting at earlier, like whoever's not in that poll is going to be a name because of just how the poll is set up this year. But yeah, very curious to see who those teams are. I'll go 45%.
I say I for some reason feel like it might be less, but we just said that half last year, just less than half, 12 out of 25 did not make or were not ranked at the end of the year. That's a big chunk. Let's say 45. Oh, you got it. Preseason hype often falls flat historically. I didn't realize it was annually on average, though. Roughly 10 to 12 teams, about 40 to 48%, start the year inside the top 25, completely drop out and finish the regular season unranked, while teams in the top 5 usually hold on. The 11 to 25 tier experiences massive turnover every single fall. So there we are. We got it right, Craig. 45% is the correct answer. Now, let's look at the poll results from our great audience and from Andrew Valet that puts these together. Will an SEC team win the national title this season? 77%, a huge chunk. Now, it includes the Big Ten, ACC, and Big 12. 23% says yes, 77% says no.
I think I would agree with that. I think there's just such a list of contenders that you're choosing over the SEC in this case. And while I do think they've got a terrific mix of schools and a really lengthy list of contenders, I do see where there are flaws. And Georgia and Texas, the two odds-on favorites, both really, really good. But if it's like them and whatever other team you'd want to sprinkle in there, like Oklahoma, I think they're going to be good. But I don't know that a playoff repeat is a given by any means. Alabama's going to be really good, but just barely made it a year ago. Georgia, Texas, really, really good. But give me the Big Ten teams like Ohio State and Oregon and Indiana, and give me a Texas Tech and give me a Miami and teams like that as a choice. And I'm going to take those teams actually over the couple of really strong contenders in Texas, Georgia, and the bevy of others as well. I think it's going to be a really fun year in the SEC. But, I think I'd take the field.
All right. I would too. You're talking about 16 out of 65 or 68, whatever the number is. That's 1/4. So I would take the field and the Big Ten along the way. All right. Also, number 2 poll question. I got someone who just brought up a kind of an underrated name. Will an SEC? Oh, that's it. What's the other poll question? It is ESPN's safest bets. Which Tier 1 team do you trust the most? Man, I really had to grind on this. The Ohio State game early at Texas made me not quite go with them, but they did win this one, 44%. Notre Dame, Indiana, Miami at 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, this poll is a great example of why every major college football show pretty much sticks to these 4 teams and about 4 others. And you see the number of the response. That's why I'm glad that we don't limit ourselves, but I do understand the focus on like the same 10 programs, although that would to me get very boring. But they do have big fan bases and big response here involving these 4 teams. So and their detractors, because of course I'm sure some Michigan fans are voting on this as well and so on. But man, I guess it's Ohio State. I think Notre Dame's going to be really, really good. That BYU game, I wish I could be there for that. I think that it's going to be a special atmosphere in Provo in a few weeks. I think Miami's going to be really good. I think Indiana's going to be really good. But yeah, I guess if I'm laying my chips on the table and trusting one over the others, I think I'm I think I'm trusting Ohio State the most. I'm with the majority here.
All right, Ohio State, 44%. They are loaded up on offense, saying, obviously, Jeremiah Smith. Wonder about a lot of games played starts on the defensive side that's been so good. By the way, Carolina just put up a note about why aren't the Big 12, Carolina, Julio, why the Big 12 is not a part of this debate. And I don't know if it's not this debate because there's nobody there from the Big 12, but as far as the debate.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for ESPN writing the article, but the question's based off their article. So whatever the safest bets, I haven't read that piece from them, but I guess that's where Andrew pulled it from. And I'm assuming that there must not have been a Big 12 team mentioned. And if there was, it was Texas Tech, I'm sure. But I guess it maybe wasn't mentioned with that cluster of teams as far as the best team.
He said, who will win the national title? Texas Tech is a good team. They are, and they will be a part of the conversation, but still some people sleeping on them maybe, and just kind of
well, I think definitely they're sitting there at 12, I mean, in the top 25, so they're middle of the pack. So, yeah, there's definitely some people that are still not convinced that they are one of the best. I think at this stage with the way the season's kind of been leading up, I think there are like 12, 14 teams that you just throw them all in the mix, and it's going to be fascinating to see how they position themselves and beat each other up and what all that looks like. So yeah, I think they're a part of the top cluster still, but for that article's purposes, I guess the elite of the elite, the best bets, safest bets, as it put it, then I guess they are just outside of that. But yeah, they're still very much in the discussion.
Andrew, by the way, said it was just those 4 teams in the article as the safe bets. That's it as well. But yeah, they sting because of how last year ended, and they have that chip on the shoulder that there's still an edge to them that they have to still go out and validate it this year.
I think 12's a little bit low for the start of the polls. I think the tough thing for them is there is like this gridlock of SEC teams that they don't know how to separate yet. So they're like, let's just lump them all together. It's Ole Miss and it's Oklahoma, and it's like every team that's not Georgia or Texas is clumped together because they don't know how to separate them yet because we haven't seen any games. Now to have them behind all of those teams, I think is a bit disrespectful. And I don't think there's the same focus on them. And I think the tough part for Texas Tech is it's going to be hard to get the focus on them. I think that Houston game early on is a great opportunity to do so. But compared to how their schedule is talked about, that's the uphill battle that they're fighting versus the others when there's multiple marquee opponents or marquee in the eyes of those who talk such things. Whereas with Tech, I do feel like they're going to have to make their own noise. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And I do think too that whether fair or not, while they did actually play incredibly well defensively versus Oregon last year, the offense didn't have the goods, and whether that's fair to hold that against them or not is a different discussion. But I do think that's being held against them. I think the belief that the Big 12 as a conference is not up to snuff, the fact that they just ran through it, and they don't really believe there's any contenders really in their way, so they're not going to give them a lot of credence for who they do beat. That's working against them. So you know what they're going to have to do? And this is what I've been telling Big 12 fans for about 3 years now. I get the disrespect card, but at some point, the only card you got to play to really do anything about that is to go and beat those teams that don't think that you are capable of beating them. Like, you can't just win the Big 12. You got to go beat Oregon the next time you have that shot. And that's eventually, you do that a couple of times. You do that a couple times this postseason, and I do think the worm will turn as far as maybe the perception goes. But that is a battle they're fighting. So all they can do is just go out and win all their games and put themselves in a position to go and shut the doubters up.
Yep, that's right. Go do it. Go take care of it, and erase any of the doubts or the yeah buts. And if that's not enough, well, it's not enough. Thank you, Rez. Michelangelo Flores and Andrew Valade, who put out another super chat. Stormy Cyclone. Great show. Glad I could join in. And Stormy, thank you so much. And we're glad you could join in too, along with everybody else, part of our audience.
Thank you.
Here on 365 Sports. We're back tomorrow. By the way, I've had questions about when does Phil Bennett return. Had a nice conversation with him. I was at the grocery store, and he's back next Monday. He'll join us again, and Be ready. Monday nights, 5 o'clock with the great Phil Bennett here on this show. Well, thank you for your time. Back tomorrow at 3 for, again, our sponsors. Thank you for being a part of what we do every day. 365 Sports, and good night.